Then I went to Douluo. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 501 Departure. The next morning, at the main gate of Shrek Academy, the 14 members of the regular and reserve teams, plus Dayun's, who is inexplicably extra, and the two team leaders, Zhuanlao and Wang Yan, had assembled early, and then walked slowly along the official road of Shrek City. Although the purpose of their trip was to go to the Xingluo Empire to participate in the latest Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul competition, before that, they had to go to the Mingdao Mountains to carry out an inspection mission, that is, to clear out the evil Soul Masters. Now, they have not completely left the scope of Shrek City, and Zhuanlao has already begun to explain the situation of the Shrek Supervisory Group to everyone. Of course, the main targets are the 7 members of the reserve team, and Dayun's and other newbies. Although the existence of the Shrek Supervisory Group can be said to be a very heavy topic, because there have been too many sacrifices and blood. But Dayun's himself is also an evil soul master, and he is exactly the kind of person who is more terrifying the higher his talent. Listening to their talk, the glory in their words, and the occasional fear in their eyes when they talk about evil soul masters, there is an indescribable feeling. But when Zhuanlao asked them whether they wanted to join the Shrek Supervisory Group, Dayun's, like the other 7 people in the reserve team, gave a positive answer. If it is because of the situation, Dayun's is not on the side of the evil soul master, so there is no such situation that he is unwilling but forced to join the Shrek Supervisory Group. But after all, he is also an evil soul master, and there will always be a day when his second martial soul will be used. In this era of irreconcilable confrontation with evil soul masters, can Dayun's really continue to stay with the people of Shrek Academy like now? I don't know. I can only say that everything is still unknown. Whether Dayun's admits it or not, even if he did not do anything to interfere with the timeline, the future of this world is no longer as certain as in the original book because of his existence. The description in the original book was like a fragile bubble, which could be broken at any time by this external unstable factor. After letting the 7 members of the reserve team understand the mission they were carrying, Elder Zhuan ordered them to start their journey at full speed. Among the 7 members of the reserve team, Hou Hao, Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao, who had the lowest cultivation, were led by Dai Yaoheng, Ma Ateo and Ling Luchen respectively, so as not to drag the team down. Dayun's was originally going to be led by Chen Zifan, because he was in the same grade as Hou Hao and the others after all. Even though he had already shown his cultivation as a soul sect, everyone still subconsciously felt that he needed help. It was not until Dayun's declined that they reacted. And in the subsequent journey, Dayun's performance also completely dispelled everyone's doubts. Compared to the others who completely relied on their physical strength to sprint forward, Dayun's only needed to use his special ability to teleport himself. He didn't even need to move. He could teleport twice in the blink of an eye to a distance of 10 meters, which was exactly the same distance as Dayuheng's full-strength sprint. Moreover, his speed was faster than Dayuheng. And he could easily follow Ma Ateo, who was at the front of the team. Moreover, because his speed was faster than others, he and Ma Ateo had to stop from time to time to wait for others to confirm that no one was left behind before they could continue to move forward. Originally, everyone thought that Dayun's frequent teleportation would not last long, but when everyone stopped their journey at noon to prepare for lunch and rest, they were all surprised to see Dayun's, who looked normal and did not show any signs of fatigue. Chen Zifan, who was quickly eliminated by Dayun's in the previous competition, couldn't help but think that he had not lost unfairly. This was definitely a big blow to him, a proud Shrek Inner Courtyard disciple and one of the contemporary Shrek 7 Devils. Because Dayun's was only a second-year student in the outer courtyard. Chen Zifan looked at Dayun's standing by the stream and watching the scenery silently, and couldn't help but complain in his heart. After everyone caught their breath, it was time for Hou Hao to show everyone his cooking skills. Under the arrangement of Zhuanlao, the top foodie, various ingredients were caught by the students one by one, and the pots, firewood, and other things needed for cooking were also prepared by the group of seniors in the inner courtyard who showed their magical powers. Finally, it was Hou Hao's cooking time. Although he was pushed to the stage by Ma Ateo, Hou Hao's cooking skills were really speechless. Everyone ate happily. After a meal, Hou Yuhao became a hot commodity in the eyes of everyone. Although Dai Yuns did not actively integrate with him, and even kept a distance from everyone intentionally or unintentionally, he was still very pleased to see that Yuhao got along well with others, especially Hou Yuhao secretly opened a special stove for him, so that he didn't have to compete with so many people. It's really good. It seems that the love when he was a child was not in vain. Dai Yuns thought happily after eating the last bite of fish, and all the worries in his heart were temporarily put aside. After eating and resting enough, everyone began to continue to travel at the pace of the morning. After an hour, they arrived at the border area between the Xianhan Empire and the Xingluo Empire where Shrek Academy was located. They rested for a while in the military camp of Anza. Then Dai Yuheng came forward and entered the military camp to borrow several flying soul guides to speed up their travel speed in the second half of the journey. However, most of the people in the reserve team were in contact with flying soul guides for the first time, so they had to learn how to use them first, which would take a long time. For Dai Yuns, it was not the first time to use flying soul guides, and he could fly himself, so he was not unfamiliar with the feeling of flying. So when he looked at Xiao Xiao who kept screaming and falling from the sky, he really couldn't empathize with her. He could only look away from this miserable scene and turn his attention to Hou Yuhao's learning situation. Finally, with the help of Hou Yuhao's spiritual detection, the reserve team finally mastered the essentials of controlling the flying soul guide. After practicing for another hour, they began to continue their journey towards the Mingdao Mountains. Of course, this time they were flying in the sky. Flying into the sky. The 7 members of the regular team flew in a human shape in front to lead the way, followed by the reserve team members who surrounded Hou Yuhao. Dai Yuns was more familiar with the operation of the flying soul guide than them, and his soul power cultivation had reached the soul sect level. He did not need Hou Yuhao's spiritual detection as an aid, so his flying speed was faster than the 7 reserve team members. At this time, he flew between the regular team members and the reserve team members, alone in the beauty. Chapter 502 Arrival. I don't know if it's an illusion, but Dai Yuns always feels as if there is a very blazing gaze staring at him from behind, which makes him feel a little uncomfortable. But he couldn't look back at this time, otherwise he would stare at the 8 people behind him, which would be very embarrassing. The sky gradually darkened. Since everyone was flying towards the west, the sunset in the sky could be seen at a glance. Although everyone didn't talk, they were all very shocked. After that, everyone landed temporarily to rest. Hou Yuhao prepared dinner for everyone again, and the others were responsible for finding ingredients. After eating, everyone took the time to recover the soul power consumed during the previous flight and prepared to continue on their way. Because they were afraid that they would run out of time, this time Zhuanlao would take them to fly the last section of the journey. With Zhuanlao's help, everyone finally arrived at the Mingdao Mountains on the western border of the Xingluo Empire before midnight, but the speed along the way was not very comfortable. After landing, everyone felt dizzy, vomited. In short, no one felt good. It must be said that Zhuanlao's 98th level of cultivation is indeed terrifying. If it weren't for Zhuanlao's soul power protection along the way, the airflow generated in the rapid state alone would be enough to kill soul masters with low cultivation like Hou Yuhao, Wang Dong, and Xiao Xiao. After that, the Xingluo garrison who noticed the movement rushed over, and Dai Yuheng came forward to negotiate. As for Zhuanlao himself, he had already found an excuse to slip away, and now no one knows where he ran to show off his fans. The one who led the troops was an old man named Douluo. Dai Yuheng affectionately called the old man Douluo, as if he knew him very well. Dai Yuns and Hou Yuhao were both watching from a distance from Dai Yuheng. Although the two had different thoughts in their minds at this time, their moods were the same. Dai Yuns first recalled the full name of Douluo in the original book, secretly complaining that this naming ability was really unique, and then thought of the rumor that Dai Yuheng seemed to have been on the battlefield with the White Tiger Duke. Now that he knew this Douluo, he thought that the rumor should be true. Although he had half revealed his identity to Duke White Tiger, it had only been more than a year, and Duke White Tiger might not have mentioned his existence to anyone. Anyway, it was not known to everyone. However, if this Douluo was a close confidant of Duke White Tiger, he should have heard Duke White Tiger mention him at least twice. After Dai Yuheng and Douluo finished negotiating, he should have taken everyone to see Duke White Tiger immediately. However, it was obvious that the Xingluo Empire's station in the Mingdao Mountains was still a long distance away from here, and everyone's current state could not support them to continue using the flying soul guide for long-distance flights. Therefore, everyone first rested in place for about an hour, waiting for the discomfort in their bodies to completely disappear, and then led by Douluo and a group of soldiers, continued to fly towards their final destination. It was not until the morning, when the sky was bright and the red sun rose slowly from the eastern sky, that everyone saw the large military camp stationed at the foot of the mountain from afar. And it was obvious that the destination was not far away. As the crowd gradually approached, Douluo, who was flying in the front, raised his hand and released a flare, which should be a kind of flare used in their military camp. When the flare spread out, the sharp-eyed Daiyuns found that some figures who were about to take off from the military camp stopped, probably because they recognized Douluo's identity. At the same time, because their flying speed was not fast, even Hou Hao, who had such a cultivation level, could talk to people in the strong wind at high altitude. At this time, he was talking to Daiyuheng, who was flying beside him, and they were not talking about any private topics, so there was no need to hide them, so the voices could still be clearly heard by the people around them. During the conversation, Daiyuheng asked about Hou Hao's hometown. After learning that Hou Hao was also from Xingluo and lived near Xingluo City, he seemed to be in a better mood, and his tone when talking to Hou Hao also seemed to be closer. Undoubtedly, since seeing the potential in Hou Hao and realizing that the top management of the academy attached great importance to Hou Hao, all of Daiyuheng's subsequent actions were intended to win over Hou Hao. At this time, Daiyuheng was still unclear about Hou Hao's true identity. Naturally, Hou Hao's unlimited ultimate ice and the magical spiritual detection sharing were all abilities that Daiyuheng coveted. Once these two abilities could be used by him, he would undoubtedly have a greater advantage over Dai Hulbin in the future battle for the title of Duke of White Tiger. Of course, Daiyuheng's current various behaviors of trying to build a relationship with Hou Hao were also aimed at Daiyuns. From the two previous competitions in the academy, Daiyuheng could see that Master Zhuan had the intention of training Hou Hao to become the main control spirit master in the current reserve team, and the main control spirit master is often the soul of a spirit master team, and can often influence the ability of the entire team. Although Daiyuheng didn't know why Daiyuns was selected when the reserve team of the next Shrek 7 Devils was full, Daiyuheng believed that as long as Daiyuns would cooperate with Hou Hao's generation of Shrek 7 Devils in the future, he would definitely be restricted by Hou Hao. So if he had a relationship with Hou Hao now, would it mean that in the future, he could also rely on Hou Hao to slightly restrict Daiyuns? It must be said that Daiyuheng did make a good calculation. Although his speculation was a little wrong, there was one thing in his idea that was not wrong, that is, Daiyuns would really be restricted by Hou Hao. The only problem was that Daiyuheng wanted to get closer to Hou Hao, but it was probably unlikely in this life. Daiyuns flew silently at the end of the entire team this time, but the conversation between Daiyuheng and Hou Hao could still be clearly transmitted to his ears, as if Daiyuheng deliberately said it to him. He could also see Daiyuheng's purpose, but he didn't react to it. Perhaps he had his own considerations in his mind. In short, he doesn't care about Daiyuheng now. He is worried about another person he is about to meet. And this worry is also the reason why he chooses to fly silently at the end of the team at this time. Because the person he is about to meet is the common father of the three people present. Daiyuheng, Hou Hao, and himself. And the unique intuition of the spiritual master tells him that if he doesn't make himself less conspicuous, when he meets the White Tiger Duke later, if the White Tiger Duke notices him, something very troublesome will happen. Mini theater, people flying in the sky. Daiyuns, alert, why do I feel like someone is always watching me from behind? Could it be Daiyuheng? Why does he keep staring at my butt? Daiyuheng, suspected of being a pervert who wants to be an orthopedic doctor? Hozhen behind the scenes black eyes you how, my brother is amazing, he can fly such a difficult flying soul guide device so well without any practice, and his flying posture is so handsome bala bala bala, worship Starry Eyes JPG, thank you all the little angels for your recommendation votes and monthly ticket support. See you tomorrow. I read the novel for 2 minutes, sorry. Chapter 503 White Tiger Duke. After flying over the military camp for about a quarter of an hour, everyone saw hexagonal cowhide tent from afar. It was completely different from the military camps they had seen before. It looked more imposing and seemed to belong to a big shot in the army. But at this time, everyone's attention was more attracted by the figure who was practicing boxing in front of the tent. The man had blonde hair, bare upper body, bronze skin, and strong muscles. As he punched, he kept rising and falling, showing a strong sense of strength. After seeing the figure, Douluo, who was leading the way in front, gradually slowed down and finally stopped not far from the man who was practicing boxing. It should be that he noticed the arrival of everyone, so the tall figure slowly stopped his movements, let out a long breath, turned around and looked at them, and there seemed to be a tiger roar coming from a distance, and even brought a strong wind, blowing the door curtain of the cowhide tent next to it unsteadily. Obviously, just a simple breath can disturb the airflow around, proving that his cultivation must be very strong, and this person also has a very iron-blooded and powerful momentum that is constantly revealed. However, when his eyes fell on the Shrek people behind him, that kind of momentum disappeared with a smile on his handsome and resolute face, as if he was a completely different person. The moment Dai Yuheng landed, he was the first to walk out, passing Douluo and the white tiger guards in front of him, and came to the man. He immediately knelt on one knee, bowed his head, and respectfully called out, "Father." Dai Yun's, who was at the end of the team, looked at Hou Hao, who was not far away from him like a conditioned reflex. Sure enough, after hearing Dai Yuheng's father, Hou Hao's whole body suddenly began to tremble. Even though the amplitude of his body shaking was not large, Dai Yun's could still see that Hou Hao was struggling. He watched all this silently, and the step he was about to take forward stopped where he was, and he actually looked a little afraid to move forward. Of course, the tall and handsome man in front of him, who looked only about 30 years old, was the famous White Tiger Duke of the Xingluo Empire, Tang Hao, and also the father that Hou Hao had never seen since he was a child. Even Dai Yun's had only met Tang Hao twice, including this time. For Hou Hao, there was no shadow of his father in his life. It was only Hou Yuner who raised him. Tang Hao had never seen them when they suffered and were sick. Tang Hao had never seen them when they were bullied by everyone in the Duke's mansion. Even when Hou Yuner died, Tang Hao had never seen it. But even at the moment of death, Hou Yuner still loved this father whom he had never seen so deeply, which made Hou Hao angry and puzzled. Is he really that good? If he is really that good, why has he ignored his mother for so long? Just because of the family and national affairs? Just because of the Duchess's words sick? How can you make Hou Hao see Tang Hao as a father? Soon, Hou Hao, who was trembling all over just now, suddenly calmed down. Dai Yun's looked at Hou Hao, who had calmed down because Wang Dong accidentally pinched Jiu, and then looked at the White Tiger Duke in front of him who had not noticed him yet, and slowly took back the step forward. It was still the same question: could Hou Hao really regard Tang Hao as a father? The twins had a telepathic connection, which made Dai Yun's clearly feel the deep hatred in Hou Hao's heart, so the answer was obvious: no. Since he couldn't, then if he, who was considered as Hou Hao's brother, walked forward at this moment and knelt on the ground like Dai Yuheng, one of Hou Hao's enemies, and respectfully called the man who was also regarded as an enemy by Hou Hao father, what would Hou Hao think? How would Hou Hao see him? Even if Hou Hao didn't know the deep reasons, it seemed that Dai Yun's would become a betrayer in Hou Hao's heart from then on. Whether it was to curry favor with the powerful or to be rich and extravagant. No matter what the reason was, he was a hateful betrayer. He was betrayed by his most respected brother. Seeing all this, Dai Yun's no longer dared to think about it. He only felt an unspeakable bitterness in his heart. Why didn't he understand Hou Hao? Why didn't he understand his brother? He felt the same pain and sorrow, the hatred that made him tremble all over. But, Hao, we are still too weak. Because we are weak, we can't help ourselves. But don't worry. Before you become completely strong, I will plant invisible seeds for you in their darkness. When your light is bright enough to penetrate the darkness, that is when the seeds are fully mature and pierce all the perpetrators in the darkness with vines. I just hope you know that in that darkness, without light and nutrients, the seeds will not germinate. Some things always need someone to do them. In the silence, Hou Hao suddenly caught a glimpse of a figure passing by him from the corner of his eye. He looked up and saw Dai Yun's walking forward. He saw him bypassing everyone standing in front of him. He bypassed Senior Sanchi. He bypassed Bibai, and his senior brother even bypassed Mazaya Ateo, the captain of the regular team, and the White Tiger guards in the front. But he didn't stop. Until he walked to the side of Dai Yuheng, in front of the tall man. Then he bowed slightly. The voice he least wanted to hear came from the air. Father, Dai Yun's finally half knelt down like Dai Yuheng. He was very grateful to someone at this time. It was because of that person that he had the capital to not kneel down now. Although everything was calculated by that young man, Dai Yuns was still very fortunate to be accepted as a disciple by that person at this time. I'm just sorry, Yu Hao. I hope you can forgive me. This chapter is less than 2,000 words. I wanted to make it up to 2,000, but I still felt that it was enough, so I didn't make it up, and left it all in the next chapter. Chapter 504 Father? Enemy? Why? Yu Hao felt very confused now. He wanted to rush up and question the man by pulling his collar. Why? Why did you act respectful in front of that man? Why did you call that man father? Have you forgotten what kind of life we used to live? Have you forgotten how those people treated us? Don't you remember every day when we were hungry and cold, and every day when we were humble and begged people in the dust? If you didn't forget, why did you call him father in a low voice in front of that man? Or are you not like me, watching your mother die helplessly, so you can still call out that word in front of that man at this time? Yu Hao thought a lot in an instant. But he found that he didn't seem to have any extra hatred for Dai Yuns now. He only felt a little despair. Even if I have put all the crimes I can imagine on you, I still can't hate you. I just can't figure it out. I can't figure out why everything seems to have changed since the day you left. Even if you reappear in front of me later. I thought that my life would gradually get better from that day on. But now it seems that my life is still so fragmented. Nothing has changed. Are all the changes just illusions? If it is just an illusion, then what is the point? It is meaningless. Wang Dong suddenly realized that something was wrong. Yu Hao, whose breath fluctuated violently just now, looked like he was dying at this time, and his breath suddenly became very weak. She immediately looked back, but was shocked by what she saw. Yu Hao's face turned pale, without a trace of blood. His eyes, which were originally extremely smart, were also lost at this moment. The whole person looked like he had an indescribable sense of powerlessness, as if he had suddenly suffered a great blow. This was also because Yu Hao had not told her about Dai Yuns, otherwise Wang Dong would definitely guess what had happened. Wang Dong didn't know what to do, but just tried to cover Yu Hao's figure as much as possible, and then took his hand. This time she had a clear position, and she would not hit the vital point like last time. After holding Yu Hao's hand, Wang Dong's heart sank even more, because Yu Hao's palm was cold at this time, and she could not feel the slightest temperature. And that was definitely not because of the extreme ice. Wang Dong's heart began to be filled with anxiety, because Yu Hao made her feel like she was dying at this time. Unable to think of any good solution, she could only subconsciously let her soul power flow into Yu Hao's body, hoping to bring Yu Hao a little warmth with her light attribute soul power. The moment the soul powers of the two people connected, they naturally combined together to form a mighty winter power. And as the soul powers merged, Wang Dong's anxious psychology was also felt by Yu Hao. The winter power flowed in their bodies, endlessly, and that powerful feeling made Yu Hao recover a little from the cold. Very warm. Yu Hao took a deep breath and hid all those complicated thoughts deep in his heart. At this moment, he felt that his heart was stronger and stronger than ever before. He looked at Wang Dong's back. The figure was not tall, and was even shorter than him, but it seemed to overlap with someone in his memory. He was in a trance for a moment, but he recovered the next moment. He held Wang Dong's hand, as if he had made up his mind. Wang Dong felt it, but did not turn around and asked in a low voice. "What's wrong?" Yu Hao lowered his head, but then looked forward. The powerful vision of his spirit eyes allowed him to clearly capture the flash of kindness in the eyes of the tall man when he saw Dai Yuns. He quietly stared at the three people over there. The same blonde hair, the same azure eyes, even the same pupils, and very similar looks. They looked like a happy family. Yu Hao retracted his gaze and responded to Wang Dong in a low voice, "I'm fine." He just saw some things and some people clearly. Dai Yuns also noticed the kindness in Dai Hao's eyes when he looked at him. That was why he chose to bow slightly to Dai Hao to show respect, otherwise he would have just nodded to Dai Hao. The loving look that flashed across his face at that moment, even when he looked at Dai Yuhang, was not there, as if he was really a loving father to him. But Dai Yuns only felt it was ironic. It has been more than 12 years since he traveled to this world. In these 12 years, for the first 6 years, he lived in the Duke's mansion with Yuner and Yu Hao, and they were humble and struggling to survive. If they wanted Yu Hao to have enough food, they had to steal, and if they were caught, they would be beaten half to death. and Dai Hao never appeared. Until the 5 years when he was 11 years old, he followed his master to practice in the wild, survived on his own, and hunted soul beasts on his own, but there was still no shadow of Dai Hao. It was not until he cultivated to the soul master and returned to the Duke's mansion to seek revenge on the Duchess that he saw for the first time the man who gave him life in this life. He was a traveler who knew the plot of the original novel. He had never enjoyed the wealth and glory that he should have as the son of the Duke, nor had he ever felt a fatherly love of Dai Hao, because to his childhood, Dai Hao was just like a non-existent person. The only convenience he had received from the Duke's mansion was the special enrollment quota for Shrek Academy. The rest of the tuition and resources were all earned by himself during the years he practiced with his master. And now, he actually saw kindness in Dai Hao's eyes. Isn't this ironic? To be honest, when reading novels in his previous life, Dai Yun's had no feelings for the character of Dai Hao, but felt extremely sorry for the tragic fate of Hou Yuhao and Hou Yuner because of him, even though he and Dai Hao had a blood relationship as father and son in this life. Deep down, Dai Yun's really had no hatred for Dai Hao. The only people he hated were the Duchess and Dai Hulbin, the direct murderer of Hou Yuner's death. As for Dai Yuhang, that was just because he hated the Duchess and Dai Hulbin. You said Dai Hao was a hero who defended his country? Yes, Dai Yun's did not deny this. The other party's act of dedicating himself to the country was indeed admirable. But to put it bluntly, what does this have to do with him? He never thought that the Xingluo Empire was his country. He was a time traveler. In this strange world that he had just come to, where did he get the family and country feelings? The only people he cared about were Hou Yuner, who had raised him, and his half-brother Hou Yuhao. As for Dai Hao, it didn't matter. In the original novel, Hou Yuhao finally forgave Dai Hao and took him to the God Realm to reunite with Hou Yuner. That was Hou Yuhao's final decision. Naturally, if Hou Yuhao decided to forgive Dai Hao, he would also do some things according to Hou Yuhao's wishes, so that Hou Yuner could finally be with her sweetheart and be happy. But if one day, Hou Yuhao changed his mind and Hou Yuner no longer loved Dai Hao, if necessary, Dai Yun's would find a way to end him. Even if they were related by blood. Even if Dai Hao suddenly decides to take good care of this child who suddenly appeared in the future and make up for the fatherly love he failed to give, and it seems that he really has such an idea now. But for both Dai Yun's and Hou Yuhao, it is still too late. It was finished about 5 minutes later than expected at 10 o'clock, which is about right. I feel that Dai Yun's opinion on Dai Hao is still a little unfinished, and I am not very satisfied with it, but it stops here, and I will start fighting the evil soul master tomorrow. Thank you all little angels for your recommendation votes and monthly ticket support. See you tomorrow. Chapter 505 Two Sides. Dai Hao not only holds an important position, but is also the commander-in-chief of the Western Group, which is extremely important in the Xingluo Empire. Moreover, his title includes the word Duke, which means he is a first-class noble in the Xingluo Empire. Naturally, he still has to be polite. Except for Dai Yuhang and Dai Yun's who have already come forward, everyone from Shrek Academy, led by Wang Yan, followed by the disciples of the inner and outer courtyards, saluted to the Duke of White Tiger. Greetings, Duke. After all, Wang Yan is the leader of the team, and it is obvious that it is time for the Duke of White Tiger and Wang Yan to talk. Naturally, Dai Yuhang and Dai Yun's are very considerate and return to the team at this time. Dai Yun still walked to the end of the team, and he had to pass by Hou Yuhao. Although Dai Yun's did not look sideways all the way, he could not help but keep his eyes on Hou Yuhao. Hou Yuhao's face was expressionless, and he was looking at his own toes, wondering what he was thinking. Dai Yun's looked at Hou Yuhao like this and felt that he seemed to be quite calm. He couldn't help but secretly breathe a sigh of relief, quickened his pace a little, and continued to be a little transparent at the back of the team. In front, Wang Yan and White Tiger Duke Dai Hao were making formal courtesy. Dai Hao expressed his desire to do his best to be a good host, but Wang Yan just said that they were here to carry out a mission and asked White Tiger Duke to provide them with clues. Afterwards, White Tiger Duke ordered Douluo to take everyone to rest, and then turned to enter the cowhide tent next to him. Douluo also followed Dai Hao's instructions and took everyone to another tent. After providing them with meals and the information they needed for this trip, he left. Wang Yan first let everyone recover the energy consumed by the continuous journey, and then began to analyze the target of this mission, a bandit group called the Hand of Death hiding in the Mingdao Mountains. According to the existing information, The leader of this gang of bandits is an evil soul master with a 6-ring cultivation. Looking at the inner court disciples who were discussing heatedly, Dai Yun subconsciously glanced at Yao Haoxuan, the thinnest boy among the boys. It was because in the original novel, Yao Haoxuan was the first inner court disciple to die at the hands of the evil soul emperor. Among the others, Chen Zifan, Gong Yangmo and Zixi were all seriously injured and could not continue to participate in the war as the Shrek Academy delegation, which led to the 7 outer court students who were the reserve team to be ordered to take up the task and go to the competition field under great pressure. As a time traveler who knew the plot, Dai Yuns now had 2 choices. Save people, or watch them die. If Dai Yuns did not have the pressure from the blue-haired young man, death for disrupting the timeline, then Dai Yuns would definitely choose to save people at the right time, or even give them a little reminder now, so that they can be more careful when facing the evil soul emperor with strange corpse explosion skills. But unfortunately, as early as the first time he met someone, he was put on a solid shackle by someone's words. Since then, he has been restrained, afraid of this and that, and even tonight, he might not help. After recovering to the best state, everyone came to the entrance of the mountain under the guidance of the White Tiger guards, and walked in the direction where the hand of death might be. Mazaya Ateo had the highest cultivation among all the Shrek students, so she naturally led the team. According to the formation she arranged, she, Dai Yuheng and Shen Zifan were the strongest attacking spirit masters, so they led the way in the front. Ho Yuheo followed Mazaya Ateo and used spiritual detection to help everyone explore the way. Behind them were other control and auxiliary spirit masters, as well as members of the outer courtyard reserve team with weaker cultivation. Dai Yuns, who had relatively high combat power among the outer courtyard, and Bibai and Su Sanchi were at the end of the team. Dai Yuns actually had no intersection with Bibai and Su Sanchi, but now the 3 of them were walking together, and Bibai and Su Sanchi seemed to be interested in finding out about him, so the 3 of them chatted quietly on the way forward. After the meeting with the White Tiger Duke this morning, everyone in this group now knows that Dai Yuns is also the White Tiger Duke's child, that is, he is a brother with Dai Yaohen. In addition to inquiring about Dai Yuns' identity, Bibai and Su Sanchi asked the most about Dai Yuns' martial soul, cultivation and other aspects that really interested them. After all, he has the cultivation of a soul master in the 2nd grade. Although there are many monsters in Shrek Academy, no one has ever seen a monster like Dai Yuns. When it was completely dark, everyone finally found the traces of the Death Hand bandits. The perceptive Wang Yan realized that the target might be not far away from them, so he ordered everyone to rest for a while. Everyone first changed the equipment in the supervisory group rings they got before leaving Shrek Academy, and then sat down to recover their strength while chatting. At this time, Mazaya Ateo asked Dai Yaoheng about the White Tiger Duke, especially about the White Tiger Duke's private life. Maybe it was her nature to love gossip, especially for a celebrity like Duke White Tiger, who was famous in the 4 countries of the mainland, which made Mazaya Ateo even more curious. Of course, there might be a reason why she was attracted to Duke White Tiger. It was true that which girl would not be attracted to such a man who was almost perfect and powerful in the eyes of outsiders? Think about those blue eyes. If these charming eyes gazed at you affectionately with lingering tenderness and endless love, who could guarantee that their heartbeat would not speed up under such an almost all-pervasive offensive? How could she guarantee that she would not be so shy as to want to retreat under such an aggressive gaze, but at the same time want to rush forward like a moth to a flame? Perhaps, Ho Yuner had fallen into such a tactic that could be said to be instinctive. In addition, Ho Yuner was Dai Hao's personal maid at the time, and she had grown up with Dai Hao since she was a child. In Ho Yuner's cognition, Dai Hao was her sky, and people could not refuse the gentle blue of the sky. Listening to Dai Yaoheng's extremely firm remarks about Dai Hao's private life, even though Dai Yuns and Ho Yuheo were not sitting together, and their faces were completely covered by the masks of the supervisory group and the night, they still showed extremely ironic smiles on their faces almost at the same time. If Dai Hao was really as self-disciplined as Dai Yaoheng said, and had only one wife, the Duchess, in his life, then what about him, Ho Yuheo, and that Dai Luli? However, what Dai Yaoheng said was not wrong from another perspective. After all, Dai Hao really only had one wife, the Duchess. Dai Yuns and Ho Yuheo's mother Ho Yuner, as well as Dai Luli's mother, not only did not have a name, but even the people of the White Tiger Duke could not see them. Dai Hao was indeed brilliant, that's right. But just as the blue sky is bright, but behind the sky is deep and endless darkness. You can see in front of people, but you can't see behind them. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 506. He decided to catch up with him. After the rest, everyone continued to move forward under the leadership of Wang Yan. Not long after, they found the hiding place of the Death Hand bandit group. After finding the place, Wang Yan did not need to arrange any tactics. The 7 disciples of the inner courtyard immediately formed a team and rushed into the hiding place of the bandits first, and began to clear out the members of the bandit group who did all kinds of evil. After all, according to the intelligence they got, the leader of the Death Hand was only a sole emperor, which was naturally not good enough in the eyes of the top students of the inner courtyard of Shrek Academy. Of course, the primary target of the disciples of the inner courtyard was still the core members of the Death Hand, including the sole emperor leader. In addition, the other minions were not within their scope of handling. These people were the 7 people they specially reserved for the reserve team. This was also the reason why the task of clearing out the evil soul masters would take these children whose average age was no more than 14 years old. After waiting for the inner courtyard disciples to rush into the hiding cave of the bandit group for more than a minute, Wang Yan also went in with several people from the reserve team. Under Wang Yan's arrangement, Beibei and Daiyuns were the first to enter the cave as the vanguards. Following them was Hao, who needed to provide spiritual detection assistance to the whole team. Then came Wang Dong, Zio, Jiang Nanan, Kai Tao and Su Sanchi, who were responsible for protecting the 4 people in the middle and paying attention to the rear. This was the first time that Daiyuns enjoyed the assistance of Hao's shared spiritual detection in battle. He felt it carefully and tried to find out if there would be any difference from his own spiritual detection. With the fusion of Wang Dong's soul power and the blessing of Hao Dong's power, Hao's spiritual detection range has exceeded Daiyuns' own. In addition, after entering the cave, Hao controlled the spiritual detection to cover only along the direction of the cave. So after a while, in the field of vision of the spiritual detection, everyone discovered the existence of the enemy and prepared for battle at the first time. There were already many corpses on both sides of the cave. Those were members of the bandit group who were cleared by the inner courtyard disciples who entered before them, but at this moment, the number of enemies detected by the spiritual detection was still not small, and there were still many soul masters inside. At the moment of finding the enemy, Daiyuns' fighting instinct made him release his mental detection at his own pace and cover the enemy. However, as soon as his mental detection was released, the group was suddenly stunned, especially Hao, who had been maintaining the mental detection sharing, and felt it most directly. Because at this time, the detection range of the mental detection suddenly increased, as if the detection fields of 2 mental detections were suddenly superimposed together. Daiyuns felt something in his heart, and looked back, just in time to meet Hao's gaze. At this time, the 2 people's almost identical blue eyes were flashing with a light golden light, and it seemed that something special resonated. As the commander, Wang Yan was stunned for a moment, and then immediately asked everyone to continue moving forward. Daiyuns turned around again after a brief surprise, and the mental detection locked the member of the bandit group in front, and then said, "Pay attention to follow, make sure that the voice can be clearly transmitted to the ears of the people behind." And then the next moment, the 2nd soul skill mental explosion, the 4th soul skill mental invasion is fully exerted, and the target is exactly the member of the bandit group that was previously locked by the mental detection. With the mental blast threshold fully opened and the mental invasion fully invading the mental power, the head of the bandit locked by Daiyuns exploded instantly, exploding a clear white and red paste. After all, he was a 3-ring soul master. Although the soul ring ratio was not good, he received a box lunch inexplicably. Under the full coverage of the mental detection, everyone naturally appreciated the scene of the bandit's head being blown up in 360 degrees without dead angles. Their faces immediately turned pale, especially Zio, who directly covered her mouth and ran to the corner of the cave to vomit. The instigator Daiyuns had no extra expression on his face. During the years of cultivation taken away by the teacher, he had killed many people. There were bandits who burned, killed, looted, and committed all kinds of evil like the current group of people, and there were also occasional soul master teams with bad intentions. At first, Daiyuns couldn't accept it, but once he thought that if he couldn't kill them, he would lose his life, Daiyuns was not so scared. At this moment, watching the gangster being shot in the head, Dai-Yun's once again remembered this sentence, and remembered those people who had fought to the death in the crisis before. When those people lost their lives and warmth, the expressions of disbelief and unwillingness on their faces suddenly overlapped with the faces of some people. Among them was Chen Zifen, whose martial spirit was like a blood sword pulled out from a sea of blood and corpses, but he was sunny and enthusiastic. There was Zixi, who was not very talkative, not very outstanding, and even had a low sense of existence. There was Gong Yangmo, who had long hair, a feminine appearance, and gentle words. There was also Yao Haoxuan, who was thin and wretched, but could become a reliable teammate of those inner courtyard disciples. And before long, these people might really become one of the corpses scattered around. Dai-Yun frowned, and his figure flashed out in an instant. In a breath, he came to the group of bandits who discovered their tracks because of the sudden death of their companions. The speed was so fast that not only the bandits did not have time to react, but even the reserve team members who were his teammates could not react. The lightning in Dai-Yun's palm had begun to wreak havoc among the crowd. For a time, screams and curses were endless. Although the cultivation of these bandits was not very high, Dai-Yun's was only one person after all. When he lacked some large-scale killing capabilities, he was still a little bit of a two-fisted man. But he was not alone after all, and his teammates who could cooperate with him soon caught up. First, 3 ancient black tripods appeared beside Dai-Yun's, blocking the positions of some bandits and blocking their attacks that were about to fall on Dai-Yun's. Only 1 or 2 bandits who happened to be in the gap of the Sansheng's Henhunding continued to attack Dai-Yun's. However, one of these escaped bandits died suddenly from a headshot, just like the first bandit who died. Another was blown away by the large-scale attack of the butterfly godlight and soon lost his life. The butterfly godlight was naturally created by Wang Dong, but the bandit who was later shot in the head had nothing to do with Dai-Yun's. He turned his head and saw the purple gold light in Hou Yuhao's eyes that had not yet dissipated. It was naturally the result of the opponent's soul impact and the purple demon pupil. When Dai-Yun's looked over, although Hou Yuhao looked a little pale and obviously had an uncomfortable feeling of killing, Dai-Yun still saw that he slightly raised his head towards him, as if to provoke him. Dai-Yun was stunned for a moment, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth that he himself did not even notice. Then his figure flashed and he threw himself into the battle again. The author's saved manuscripts have been revived again, ha 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 ha, but the author's homework is almost beyond saving, woo 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 woo. Thanks to the friends who voted for recommendations and monthly tickets for this book. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow I will really start fighting the evil soul master, Doge. Chapter 507, 3 consecutive finishing moves. Various soul skills flashed, and the people present were all elites of Shrek Academy. Although they were a little trembling in their hearts, the opponent was a robber who did all kinds of evil after all. No one would retreat at this moment. Everything they did was to seek justice for those who had been abused. The most fierce killer among the bandits was Dai-Yun's, but the second was not Bibai who fought with him among the bandits, but Iketao who was not far away with a soul guide cannon. Every time the muzzle of his soul guide gun flashed, a bandit with the hand of death would die. Even though there were still many bandits pouring out from the depths of the cave and rushing towards them, everyone was still able to smoothly advance into the depths of the cave, with the purpose of joining the inner courtyard disciples who entered first. As the number of battles increased, the reserve team members who were originally pale gradually became fierce. Looking at the thieves who were crazy and determined to die with them, the fear in their hearts was gradually decreasing. Even Xiao Xiao and Jiang Nanan sent away many bandits' lives. The damage of Xiao Xiao's 2 soul skills was not too high, so most of the time, she just relied on her Sansheng's Henhunding to defend everyone, and slightly control the bandits to buy some time for the main attacking teammates, but after she used all her strength, when her mind was at the intersection of extreme excitement and extreme calmness, she actually seized the opportunity and smashed many bandits' heads with 3 big tripods. Later, she even seemed to understand the key points, and could send many bandits away with just the rapid collision of Sansheng's Henhunding. As for Jiang Nanan, after she completely let go, she didn't care about nausea and fear. She used the 3rd soul skill instant transfer to catch those bandits who were alone. When she got in front of them, she jumped lightly, and her slender legs were wrapped around the bandits' necks. Then, relying on the 1st soul skill waist bow and the 2nd soul skill gravity control, she threw the bandits to the ground with a scissor kick, and broke their necks. Occasionally, a whip kick towards the bandit's head was dawning. As time went by, fewer bandits chose to trouble her. Soon, Jiang Nanan could not find any bandits who were alone, so she began to try to rush into the crowd of bandits like Daiyuns and Bibai, using all kinds of fierce leg soft skills that could easily break people's necks. Su Sanchi behind was terrified, especially when Jiang Nanan looked at him from time to time, which made him feel that Jiang Nanan would rush over and throw him to the ground in the next second and give him a set of ancestral cervical vertebra treatment massage. Su Sanchi could only shrink silently behind his Zuanming tortoise-shell shield, his mind filled with the words Jilian, you don't look like good people, and at the same time, he was angry and slammed a bandit who rushed towards him into the cave wall, and then broke his neck with a slap. It has to be said that when Jiang Nanan fights, her movements are not only clean and neat, but also quite heroic. I don't know if she was inspired by Daiyuns. She also began to learn to use instant transfer frequently to fight like Daiyuns, and she found that it was much easier than before, and she didn't have to pay special attention to her own defense. Of course, her soul power is not as strong as Daiyuns', and she doesn't have the energy support of the dark demon evil tiger, so frequent instant transfers can't withstand consumption. But after a backflip kick that kicked the gangster who was punched by Daiyuns into the sky, broke his neck and vomited blood, Jiang Nanan actually felt a strange and hearty feeling. Daiyuns gave a thumbs up to the first beauty in the outer courtyard and praised her kick just now. I like to see beautiful sisters beat people with super cool physical skills the most. Jiang Nanan looked at the thumbs up that Daiyuns had just given, and she felt inexplicably happy. Her choice at this time was to fly and kick, sending a lucky man staggering in the direction of Daiyuns. Daiyuns naturally noticed the unstable enemy and felt that he could not be outdone by the beautiful sister, so he immediately decided to show him a whole life, no, to show his skills. He jumped up, leaned back slightly, and at the same time, his legs were tightened and kicked sideways towards the bandit who was unstable because of Jiang Nanan's kick. Under the huge force, not only did Daiyuns fly backwards, but the bandit also took off directly, knocking down a large number of enemies, and finally died due to serious injuries. Daiyuns fell to the ground, stood up quickly with a somersault, and continued to fight. Naturally, he did not notice Su Sanchi, who was jealous because he witnessed the whole process of his interaction with Jiang Nanan. However, Su Sanchi did not rush forward to show off in front of Jiang Nanan, and still dutifully protected the safety of Hou Hao, Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao. Hou Hao, who had been relying on spiritual detection to control the whole scene, also clearly saw the entire process of the battle between Daiyuns and Jiang Nanan, and this seemed to open a new door for him. For the first time, he knew that the battle of soul masters could not only rely on the lethality of soul skills, but also rely on fighting skills to cause a considerable threat to the enemy in close combat. Generally speaking, even close combat strong attack soul masters like Dai Yu Heng mostly rely on the physical advantages brought by the possession of martial spirits and some soul skills that strengthen the body in close combat. In the confrontation with others, they rush forward with absolute strength and lethality. It is a pure strength contest between the two sides. Few people use the fancy fighting skills like Jiang Nanan and Daiyuns. But now it seems that under the premise of having enough strength to rush forward, they have mastered the fighting skills like Jiang Nanan and Daiyuns. Once they get close, it will be the nightmare of all soul masters. It is difficult for those who are entangled to make any effective resistance. Because his mental power was strong enough, Hou Hao could easily simulate the situation of fighting in that way in his mind. Since he also had soul skills such as Ice Emperor Bodyguard and Ice Emperor Claws that were specially designed for close combat, Hou Hao found that this fighting method was very feasible for him. If he combined it with Tang Sek's unique skills such as Ghost Shadow, Crane Control and Dragon Capture, and Mysterious Jade Hand, of course, now was not the time to think so much. The top priority was to quickly eliminate these enemies and then reunite with senior sister Xia Ateo and the others as soon as possible. Perhaps it was the powerful intuition unique to spiritual attribute soul masters. Hou Hao always felt that something big was going to happen, which made him a little uneasy. Daiyuns, who was also a spiritual attribute soul master and had the same martial soul as Hou Hao, would have had the same premonition as him if he had not known the plot in advance. But it was precisely because he knew the plot in advance that Daiyuns' uneasiness was 100 times more serious than Hou Hao's. You know, that evil soul emperor has a soul skill called Corpse Explosion. The more corpses there are nearby, and the higher the cultivation level of the corpses before they died, the stronger the power after being detonated. Now there are countless corpses nearby. If they fight against that evil soul master later, how can they survive such a violent explosion intact? Thinking of this, Dai Yuns temporarily withdrew from the battle, teleported all the way back until he came to the soul master with a relatively high level among the people present, and then asked the question he had hesitated for a long time. Senior He, how many advanced soul guide shields do you have? He Tao, who was concentrating on killing the enemy, obviously didn't expect Dai Yuns to suddenly appear beside him, and inexplicably began to ask him about the soul guide shields. However, he only froze for 2 seconds before giving Dai Yuns an answer. I now have a level 6 soul shield, 2 level 5 soul shields, and more than a dozen level 4 soul shields. What's wrong? Dai Yuns vaguely remembered that in the original book, He Tao said that the corpse explosion of the evil soul emperor could be resisted by a level 5 soul shield. Even if it couldn't be resisted, it could offset a lot of the damage of the explosion. With a strong cultivation of the inner courtyard disciples, there wouldn't be such heavy casualties. So after thinking for a second, Dai Yuns said, "Can you give me a level 5 soul shield? I will pay you the same amount afterwards." He Tao didn't understand why this junior who was so comfortable in the enemy pile was asking him for a level 5 soul shield now, but in battle, time is the most precious thing. As the only candidate for Shrek Academy's Extreme Single Soldier program, He Tao naturally understood this truth. So he didn't waste any words and directly handed a spherical device to Dai Yuns. Dai Yuns took it, hurriedly thanked him, and then quickly dodged, not only passing the few people in the reserve team, but also the few remaining enemies, and went all the way to the depths of the cave. Neither Wang Yan nor Hou Yuhao knew what Dai Yuns was doing by suddenly leaving the team at this time. They could only watch Dai Yuns' figure disappear at the corner deep in the cave, but they could not solve the battle for the time being, so they could only speed up a little, hoping to catch up as soon as possible. This chapter is the product of the author's obsession with Resident Evil 5 and 6. Dodge, there was a little accident today, and the author is revising today's second chapter, which will be published later. This chapter is nearly 3,000 words. I hope you don't think it's expensive. Ha 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 ha. Today, the author went to Kidian to take a look, because this book was first published on Chuangshi, and found that we actually have a hall master, thanks to the book friend Yuan I's Hangdao for his continued support. Chapter 508. What is a hero? What is a hero? What defines a hero? How can one be called a hero? Is it to have a sense of justice, to save people from suffering, to save the world when the end of the world comes? Is it to be irreconcilable with evil, to be with the light forever? Is it to be lonely, strong, and willing to sacrifice everything despite a painful past? Is it to be handsome, fit, and wear a tight suit to enforce justice in the dark? How does a hero become a hero? It is to stand up in the face of oppression, and to sing for the people in resistance. It is to roar in silence, and to never retreat in the face of difficulties. It is to be extraordinary among ordinary people, and to love the greatest love among loves. People are not called heroes because they are heroes. Heroes are just called heroes by others, since heroes are also defined by people. Why do heroes exist? Not to save people, nor to save the world, just so that there are people who can be the first to stand up in bullying and in danger. Once there is the first person who stands up, there will be the second and the third, and as long as you stand up, you can be called a hero. The guy who was suspected to be Heavenly Deo or something similar, after helping him complete his own puzzle, that is, the remaining spirit rings and spirit bones, once said that he still had a mission in this world. That mission was the key to whether he could return, and it was also the final test left by that guy for him. He was unwilling to say more about the details now. After all, when dealing with such an existence, every word could become a taboo. In short, the final test was just 2 words: cultivation. Cultivate a qualified hero. It was strange to think about it. That existence cultivated him intentionally or unintentionally, and now it wanted him, the cultivated guy, to cultivate another person. No matter how he thought about it, Tang Liu still couldn't quite understand the other party's intention. According to that guy's words, the prey and the hunter, the madman and the rational madman. It was probably to avoid trouble. So in order to complete this final test, Tang Liu started to make arrangements on the day he completed himself, waiting for his test questions to be sent from outside this universe. The so-called test questions were naturally Dai Yuns. Under the gaze of Haolan's magic, his eyes looked back at the long river of time behind Dai Yuns, that is, looking at Dai Yuns' past. Like him, he was not very old when he crossed over, and he was also a high school student. However, Tang Liu himself was a sophomore student, while Dai-Yun's was a senior who was about to take the college entrance examination. From the moment he crossed the door, his soul was fixed at the moment of 18 years old. Looking back, he was still an ordinary person, with average grades in the class and good popularity. He was not the center of attention, nor was he a small transparent person with no sense of existence. Just like the people who occupy the largest number in that world, they live the same life every day. They don't say how happy they are, but they won't remember sad things for a long time. Sometimes they do stupid things, and then when they recall them inadvertently, they are so embarrassed that they want to kill themselves. Tang Liu is such an ordinary student who spends most of his time studying every day. He doesn't even know why that guy chose Dai-Yun's. Of course. He doesn't know why he was chosen. Is there anything outstanding about him? As mentioned earlier, Dai-Yun's is just an ordinary person no matter how you look at it. Is there any special family relationship or something like that? No, his parents are quite loving, and he has not had any family setbacks since he grew up. Although his family is not very rich, the family is harmonious, which can be regarded as happiness. But it is precisely because he is too ordinary, so is it really possible for Dai-Yun's to become the hero that person needs? At this time, the cave was blue, and the place where the blue light reached seemed to have become a special area, completely isolated from the outside world. And in the area covered by the blue light, everything fell into stillness. No, it was not completely still. The people in this blue area were still moving, but the speed was very slow, to the point where it was difficult to distinguish with the naked eye. In the deepest part was a group of young men and women with at least 5 soul rings. Opposite them was a guy covered in a black robe, exuding a strong evil aura. He was surrounded by 6 soul rings, 3 yellow, 2 purple, and 1 black. He was obviously the evil soul master leader of the Death Hand. At this time, the other party's somewhat dry right hand was raised. You can see that his nails are completely black, giving people an indescribable sense of weirdness and disgust. As he raised his right hand, there was a faint red light flashing among the corpses scattered around. When the red light appeared, all the corpses began to swell rapidly. It was foreseeable that a violent explosion would evolve in this narrow cave. The expressions of the 7 young men and women gradually emerged with fear and disbelief, but they had no effective means of defense, and heavy casualty seemed to be a foregone conclusion. The only variable was a blond boy who was sprinting in the cave passage. He held a spherical metal object in his hand, and that was the key to whether the young men and women could survive successfully and intact. But the boy still held the spherical metal tightly. He only needed to inject a little soul power and then throw it out, but he seemed to be hesitating about something. Like a ghost walking in this blue field, no one saw how Tang Liu appeared. He was like a figure suddenly walking past a camera in an empty room. He was still dressed in blue, and his appearance had not changed at all. He was young and handsome, but his temperament had become a little vicissitudes, perhaps because he had experienced 10,000 years of time. He put his hands behind his back and walked towards Dai-Yun's leisurely, looking at the spherical metal in his hand for a while, and then leaning down to look at his face intently, but in the end he paced around him and suddenly smiled. It's still possible. The people over there wanted to send them here, so they had to first arrange a death for their bodies over there. Just like Tang Liu himself, although he traveled through time in a daze after inhaling the light dust from the broken book, in reality his body really died of poisoning, and the result of the police's final test was also sudden food poisoning. Dai-Yun's reason for traveling through time was even more reasonable than his. He died of a serious disease that was difficult to treat. In other words, before traveling through time, Dai-Yun's had been lying in the hospital for a long time. During the most recent attack, when he was pushed into the operating room for rescue, his soul also quietly entered this universe. After being sick for a long time, Dai-Yun's had not eaten much, so when he traveled through time and tasted the raw GMO for the first time, he felt that it had been a long time. The ordinary life was completely rewritten because of illness. There are too many such examples in that world, but we just don't see it most of the time. Maybe, behind a stupid comment of a stupid netizen who is bragging and talking nonsense that you saw on the small broken station, there may be a person who is about to fall apart. Even if they have been knocked down by life, they still show their sunny side to equally friendly strangers in a completely unfamiliar place. In the early stage of his illness, Dai-Yun's continued to go to class as if nothing had happened and smiled in front of his friends, but after his body became weaker and weaker, he could no longer pretend, and could only be admitted to the hospital honestly accompanied by his parents. When he changed into the hospital gown, he was also panic-stricken. The pain in his body seemed to keep telling him that time was running out. At this time, he realized that he was so confused. But his parents did not give up on him, the doctor did not give up on him, and his friends and classmates did not give up on him. And these people are his whole world as an ordinary person. So the world did not abandon him. Someone cares about him, someone is concerned about him, someone loves him. The disease has ravaged his ordinary life into slag, but he is connected by all the people who care about him with various warmth of varying sizes. Even if the connection seems a little weak, his heart is still warm because of it before everything is completely broken. So after traveling through time, Dai-Yun has regrets, but not many, but he cherishes his life. Even if ordinary people are ordinary, they will have their own unique special features, otherwise people will be completely the same, right? Because of the concern, he cherishes the days of companionship. When Dai-Yun was not defeated by the disease, did not give up on himself, and did not pass on the despair to those around him who care about him, from that moment on, he became a hero, his own hero. Courage, a word that has been mentioned many times by people around him since childhood. What Dai-Yun lacks now is courage. Because life ends in a short time, when he opens his eyes in a new world, he is naturally grateful and cherishes it. Then at this time, a casual excuse can become a mountain pressing on human nature. Can you say that Dai-Yun is afraid of death? No, he just doesn't want his hard-earned second life to end in vain, so he will be timid in various so-called critical events, even if someone will die because of his retreat. Can you say he is selfish? It's just to save his life, how can it be selfish? But he has the ability and that kind of characteristics. If there were no restrictions, he would definitely not hesitate to set his fate right before death came, and Tang Liu could have directly assigned some saving people tasks to Dai-Yun for him to do. But if he is forced to be a hero like this, can Dai-Yun really become a hero? A person who does heroic things but has no heroic heart, if he suddenly has powerful power in a world where most people are ordinary people, it will inevitably become an extremely unstable factor. This may be the reason why that person needs a hero. On the contrary, many restrictions were imposed on Dai-Yun at the beginning, and they were restrictions that would kill him if he violated them. When faced with a life and death decision, what if Dai-Yun chose to save others? In that case, regardless of whether he succeeded or not, Dai-Yun stood up and took the initiative to jump out of the circle drawn by Tang Liu for him. From then on, it would no longer be convenient but must be done. He's a well-deserved hero. In this chapter, the reason for Dai-Yun's time travel is a newly modified setting added in. It is because of some things that happened today that the author decided to add a plot. Although it can be regarded as completing the setting of Dai-Yun's, after all, the reason for Dai-Yun's time travel has not been thought out before, but it was mainly impromptu. As for the reason, it was the first time that the author realized that a serious illness was quite close to him. The author does not know if you have seen this chapter, but the author still wants to say, I'm sorry, I really don't know how to comfort people. I have been considering in deleting for an afternoon, and in the end I don't know what to send. The only way I can think of to comfort you is to use the words in my novel, although I don't know how you feel when reading it, whether you will misunderstand, and I don't know if I can really comfort you, but I am not sure of the specific situation. I can only rely on my own guesses and try to empathize with you, but I find it is still difficult. I just hope it won't have a counterproductive effect. In short, come on, everything will be fine. Because of the revisions and additions, this chapter already has 3,000 words, so the battle with the evil soul master has been postponed to the next chapter. Thank you all for your support. The penultimate paragraph of this chapter is a fill-in for chapter 465. Chapter 509, The Abnormality. If the timeline deviates irreversibly, I will personally take care of you. The death of Yao Haoxuan, the serious injuries of Chen Zifan, Guang Yangmo, and Zixi mean that the reserve team must play. If the 7 players in the regular team have not lost their combat capability, then there is no need for the 7 players in the reserve team to play. Everything that is destined will not happen, the timeline will deviate, and the world will move towards an unknown place. You will also die. Now that you know all this, are you still going to throw out that soul guide shield? It was like the devil's whispering in your ear, and every syllable was creepy. The young man's voice was gentle and soothing, but the malice in his words was revealed without any concealment. In Dai-Yun's eyes, time seemed to slow down, and everything around him was close to stillness, but his consciousness was still very clear. His eyes could accurately capture every change in the cave, and his consciousness could clearly perceive the approaching danger. The 7 people in the inner courtyard at the center of the explosion were clearly in front of him, and he only needed to throw the soul guide shield in his hand over. Although he rushed over, his heart was still full of tremors. He didn't know if it was his own illusion, but a vague sense of death seemed to be entangled with him, lurking, waiting, as if ready to erupt and give him a fatal blow at any time. The young man's voice still echoed, and the other party seemed to have never left his mind. He had been silent for a long time but suddenly spoke at this time, as if reminding, or warning. Perhaps in a place he couldn't see, the young man's hand had slowly raised up, and as long as it fell casually, he could easily reap his life. Should he save people or not? The young man's voice seemed to force him to make a decision. Time, mysterious and irresistible. Tiny people try to avoid it carefully, but they never thought that every move has already stirred up ripples in the river. You are observing, you are avoiding, but don't you notice that one thing is very different from your memory? Look at the man infected with the evil spirit. Does he look the same as you remember? The calm tone seemed to hide an inexplicable smile. Dayan's thoughts were running wildly. He looked at the evil soul master with a ferocious temperament, and his pupils were gradually shrinking. No. The memory suddenly became clearer than ever. The pages of the books he had read were quickly turned in his mind, and paragraphs of words were constantly enlarged, flashing and flashing back in front of his eyes, until the key words surfaced from the ocean composed of thousands of words. 6 rings. This evil soul master is a 6 ring. How could he be a 6 ring? If you don't make a decision now, it will be too late. In his mind, the young man's voice was gradually fading away. Although the malice that made him feel cold all over was not diminished, the death intention that had been shrouding his body seemed to have disappeared. He seemed to be sure that he would not take action. It seemed that he was sure that he would throw out the life-saving soul guide shield. So he left like that. Time moved. Countless corpses made a terrifying explosion, and disgusting and poisonous blood splashed, completely covering the 7 people in the inner courtyard at the center of the explosion. But before that, a small ball emitting golden light got into the crowd first. You are still too young, your thinking is not sharp enough, or you are not confident enough, and you are not sure of your guesses at all. For example, the theory of the timeline, if it really has an impact on the world, then since you and Hao are brothers, the timeline can't really follow the original work completely. It's obviously impossible. Tang Liu shook his head and said with some regret. Although he had been misleading Dayan before, and had also secretly hinted at him many times, this unfortunate child really didn't realize it at all and believed in his words. Even if he was afraid of his strength, he shouldn't have no doubts at all, right? It's one thing to think that Dayan's is a little disappointing, but he still has to do his best. Naturally, the words he said in Dayan's ear couldn't be spared. He still followed the usual practice, misleading Dayan in his words, and inserting information to remind him. Letting Dayan pay attention to the evil soul master is naturally Tang Liu's hint of how to break the situation this time. In the original work, the evil soul master only had the cultivation of 5 rings, and now it has become 6 rings, which is naturally the result of the change in the timeline. If Dayan noticed this in time, and Dayan is not stupid, I believe he will be able to react quickly and make the most correct choice. The road ahead is long and arduous. Tang Liu sighed, his figure gradually faded, and the blue-black light surrounding him also disappeared. At the moment the light disappeared, time, which had slowed down to a crawl, instantly returned to normal. The explosion began. Dayan fell heavily to the ground. Because he was so anxious, he threw the soul shield out, but he not only failed to control the force, but also lost his balance because he was in a sprint state. The reaction time left for him was too short, so he only had time to use his 3rd soul skill to cover his body with his mental power to reduce the impact of the explosion on himself as much as possible. Although he was close, he was not in the center of the explosion. According to his estimation, he should not be killed by the explosion, but he would definitely be injured. But it doesn't matter, as long as he doesn't die, he can slowly recover. But the expected pain did not appear. Dayan lay on the ground, looking up in confusion, and found that he had come to Hao's side without knowing when. In front of him was Bei, who was exerting his full strength to help everyone resist the poisonous blood after the corpse exploded. There were 3 ancient black tripods around him. The heavy Sansheng soul-suppressing tripod also blocked a lot of the impact of the explosion, marking a safe area for everyone. Hou then helped Dai Yun's up from the ground. Dai Yun's didn't look at Hou's concerned eyes beside him, but used his spirit eyes and mental detection to look forward. When he saw Su Sanchi standing in front of Bibai, holding up the mysterious nether tortoise shield to resist most of the explosion, he understood what happened. It should be at the moment of the explosion that Su Sanchi used his mysterious nether replacement to exchange positions with himself. Although Dai Yun's could guarantee that he would not die, he was still very grateful to be saved. But now he didn't have time to pay attention to these, he was more concerned about the situation of the 7 disciples in the inner courtyard. Just when his mental detection wanted to cover that side, a very terrifying aura suddenly came from behind him, and his outward mental power was directly shattered by the terrifying might, and he had to retract his soul skills. The next second, the owner of the terrifying momentum appeared. Ha. I don't know if there are any friends who were surprised when they saw that this evil soul master was a 6-ringed soul master before. In fact, the timeline has changed, and the author didn't remember the original plot wrongly. Chapter 510 Rescue. Zhuanlao was surrounded by 9 soul rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 3 black and 2 red. He had a pair of horns on his head. He looked at the culprit who caused the explosion. Then, the terrifying pressure came with Zhuanlao's big hand like a cattail leaf fan after his martial spirit possessed him, and grabbed the evil soul master. Seeing that things were not going well, the evil soul master immediately detonated the remaining corpses around him, and while Zhuanlao was suppressing the explosions, he immediately fled. Although the mental detection could not be released, Dai Yun's spiritual eyes were still watching the whole process. When he saw the evil soul master rushing in this direction, he thought of something and subconsciously wanted to push the person next to him away. But he was a step slower. His hands did not fall on Hou, but on the evil soul master who grabbed Hou. Suddenly, a very cold feeling invaded from his fingertips and quickly spread throughout his body. After a delay of 1 second, the evil soul master had already grabbed Hou and entered the escape secret passage and disappeared. Explosions were heard one after another. It should be that the evil spirit master detonated the passage to prevent Zhuanlao from chasing after him. Asshole! Zhuanlao suppressed his anger and looked at Wang Yan. Go check on Xiao Tao and the others quickly. I'm going to save Hou. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhuanlao controlled the earth element to dig all the way down and chase the evil spirit master. Seeing that Zhuanlao was going to save people, Dai Yun's and Wang Yan were the first to move. They both rushed into the depths of the cave to check on the inner courtyard disciples. Dai Yun's had the ability to teleport, and his speed was no slower than Wang Yan. They arrived at the core area of the previous explosion at almost the same time, and naturally saw the current situation of the inner courtyard disciples. Ma Xiaotao and Dai Yuhang, who had the strongest cultivation, were only thrown aside by the shock wave of the explosion because they had powerful spirit skills to protect their bodies. They vomited blood but had no external injuries. Ling Luchen was in the same situation as them. Because she was the main control spirit master, she was not too close to the explosion. Yao Heoxun was the most seriously injured, because his martial spirit had the largest body size, so he had to bear more of the impact of the explosion. He was unconscious on the ground, blood was constantly pouring out of his mouth, and his body was covered with wounds of all sizes, but fortunately, he was not dead and was still alive. The remaining few people, Chen Zifan, Guangyangmo, and Zixi, were also injured to varying degrees and fell into coma. However, Chen Zifan did not lose a leg, and Guangyangmo and Zixi were not corroded by the poisonous blood after the explosion of the corpse. Dai Yun saw the metal ball lying quietly on the ground in the middle of the few people, which had been damaged to a great extent. Obviously, this level 5 soul guide shield is now completely scrapped. Dai Yun stood there in a daze, without any movement for a long time. His eyes kept moving back and forth on the unconscious people, and his keen mental power allowed him to easily sense the weak but still existing life breath on them. Everyone survived. Suddenly, a huge sense of relief and satisfaction immediately overwhelmed him. He let out a long breath, as if he had relaxed completely. He raised his head, closed his eyes, and had a smile on his lips that he didn't even notice. Wang Yan anxiously checked everyone's condition and fed the 4 unconscious people on the ground a pill full of life breath. It should be something that could keep them alive and buy time for the subsequent rescue work. Dai Yun also immediately stepped forward to see if he could help. Wang Yan was not polite at this time. He took out another bottle of pills from the storage soul guide, handed it to Dai Yun's, and told him to feed it to Mazaya Ateo and the other two. Dai Yun's immediately dodged. Although Mazaya Ateo and the other two had no external injuries, if they were not treated in time, their cultivation path would probably end here, so they couldn't be careless. He first came to Mazaya Ateo and Ling Lujin, distributed the pills to the two, and then came to Dai Yuheng without stopping and fed him the last pill. After taking the pills, the complexion of the three people improved significantly. They all looked at Dai Yun's with complex light flashing in their eyes. Mazaya Ateo spoke first. "Thank you." Ling Lujin nodded and followed him. "If you need me, I will help." Finally, it was Dai Yuheng, who actually stood up with his seriously injured body, and then gave Dai Yun's in front of him an unexpected hug. Although it was only a moment before they separated, Dai Yun's immediately took a half step back. He looked up and saw the sincere gratitude in Dai Yuheng's eyes, and heard him say, "You saved our lives." "Thank you." Dai Yun's glanced at him, and finally said nothing. He suppressed the surprise in his heart, said it's okay to the three people, and then returned to Wang Yan to wait for arrangements. At this time, several people from the reserve team also followed and spontaneously helped Wang Yan. Finally, with the joint efforts of everyone, they successfully led the seriously injured inner courtyard disciples out of the cave and came to the woods outside to wait for Xuan Lao to come back. Dai Yun's walked to the side a little tiredly, sat down against a tree, and recalled the previous scenes in his mind. Every word of the young man, every detail of the explosion, replayed in his mind at this moment, and finally fixed on the evil soul master with 3 yellow, 2 purple and 1 black. Even though he had been avoiding it as much as possible and following the plot step by step, the timeline had changed unreasonably now. The evil soul master, who only had 5 rings in the original work, had now become a soul emperor and had a 10,000-year soul ring. And just this one soul ring increased the power of the corpse explosion several times. If it weren't for the level 5 soul guide shield, perhaps the final ending would not be like this. It would even be different from the original work. The death toll of the inner courtyard disciples would rise by several more. Even Mazaya Ateo and Dai Yuheng would definitely suffer more serious and life-threatening injuries. Thinking of this, Dai Yun's felt both the joy of successfully saving people and the relief that he threw out the soul guide shield in the end. But it was still completely different from the original work, so would the timeline continue to change now? But the fact that he was not killed by that young man now should explain a lot of things. Just when he closed his eyes to think, he sensed that someone was walking towards him and sitting next to him. Dai Yun's opened his eyes and saw Wang Yan, who was already sitting next to him. Wang Yan was also looking at him, with a look of deep gratitude and fear on his face. Ahem, I don't know if my friend showed an anti-smile or an expression of disgust. What? You asked the author where he's referring to? How do I know? Pointing with confidence. Dai Yuheng, this hug feels like I hugged the whole summer. Dai Yun's, a flying kick. What the hell are you hugging in the summer, Dai? Dai Yuheng, vomiting blood JPG. Thank you to all the little angels for your recommendation votes and monthly votes for this book. Your support is the author's biggest motivation for updating. The next chapter will start the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul Competition. Can you guess whether Dai Yun's will participate? The author is really curious about how many little angels have seen the latest updated chapters. Can you guys say something in the comment section? Doge. Chapter 511, Arrival at Xingluo City. Thank you for saving Zaya Ateo and the other 7, Dai Yun's. If it weren't for the soul shield you threw out, the casualties would have been much more serious than now. Wang Yan looked at Dai Yun's and said with some emotion. Dai Yun's shook his head and said, Teacher Wang, the seniors and we are from the same academy. I am very grateful to see that they are okay. Wang Yan, Alice, we were too careless. Who would have thought that a Soul Emperor level evil Soul Master could cause such huge destructive power? After all, we know too little about evil Soul Masters. Dai Yun's began to ask Wang Yan about the current situation of the inner courtyard disciples. Wang Yan replied, Now, although their situation is not optimistic, at least their lives are saved. Xiao Tao, Yao Heng and Ling Luo Chen's internal injuries can be recovered slowly. Yao Haoxun, Chen Zifan, Gong Yangmo and Zixi's injuries are more serious. When Master Xuan comes back, he should send them back to school for treatment immediately. Although their lives and future training are not a problem, they will definitely not be able to go to the All-Continent High-Level Soul Master Academy Soul Fighting Competition. Yuns nodded and said nothing. It seems that although the result is different from the original, the timeline still flows to the same place as the original. The self-correction ability of the timeline is still quite powerful. Perhaps this is why the young man did not kill him immediately. At this time, the ground trembled, and Master Zhuan's figure soon appeared in everyone's sight. Hao, who seemed to be in a coma and had a weak breath, was being held by the old man with one hand, but it seemed that he was not in any serious trouble. Wang Dong was the first to rush over and help Hao from Master Zhuan's hands. Wang Yan, who was sitting next to Yuns, also walked towards Zhuanlao. He wanted to report to Zhuanlao about the current situation of the inner courtyard disciples. After listening to Wang Yan's report, Zhuanlao also looked towards Yuns. After noticing Zhuanlao's gaze, Yuns did not continue to sit on the ground. When he stood up, he also saw Zhuanlao walking towards him. Zhuanlao came to Yuns and said to him very seriously, Yuns, I now thank you on behalf of Shrek Academy, because my miscalculation of the strength of the evil soul master led to an accident in this mission. If you hadn't rescued me, there might have been a more serious accident. When I return to the academy, I will immediately convene a meeting of the Sea God Pavilion. The academy will not forget your kindness this time, because any one of Ateo and the others is too important to us. You saved their lives. Zhuanlao's momentum was still quite intimidating, but Yuns remained calm and said, Zhuanlao, I just did what I should do. After all, I am also a member of Shrek Academy. And strictly speaking, it was the level 5 soul guide shield that the senior gave me that helped a lot. Zhuanlao, the academy has always dealt with things based on the facts, and I will not give you less than a penny. Hearing what Zhuanlao said, Yuns didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. After that, Zhuanlao called Wang Yan aside, as if he was explaining something. Then, Master Zhuan released his mighty soul power and left quickly with the unconscious Chen Zifan, Guangyangmo, Yao Haoxun and Zixi. All the remaining people watched Master Zhuan leave. Although no one died in this mission, everyone was still in a heavy mood, especially the 7 members of the reserve team. The All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Fighting Competition was about to start, but Shrek's regular players had a problem at this time. The main players of the team, Chen Zifan, Guangyangmo, Yao Haoxun, and Zixi, lost their combat ability and urgently needed treatment. It was impossible for them to rush back to participate in the competition. Ma Ateo, Dai Yuhang, and Ling Lujin, who still had combat ability, needed to rest for at least half a month before they could participate in the battle. Since the soul fighting competition 10,000 years ago, Shrek Academy has never lost again, and has won every time. In the case that the regular players were unable to participate, the burden of guarding this 10,000 years of glory naturally fell on the shoulders of the 7 reserve team members whose shoulders were still young. No one is a pushover to participate in this continent-level competition. Can the 7 members of the reserve team really keep this honor? With the example of the evil soul master before, even Yuns himself is no longer sure. The evil soul master can change from the 5 rings in the original book to 6 rings, so what is impossible in the competition? Thinking of the last words of Zhuanlao before he left, victory, honor belongs to you, failure, shame belongs only to me, everyone can't help but feel a little heavy in their hearts. Xingluo Empire, Xingluo City. As the capital of the Xingluo Empire, Xingluo City has its own prosperous grand occasion. In addition, due to the upcoming opening of the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul Competition, the flow of people in the Xingluo Empire has increased dramatically in the past 2 days. All participating colleges are placed in the Xinghuang Hotel, and the level of the rooms of each college representative team in the hotel is determined according to the ranking obtained in the previous competition. Naturally, as the defending champion of the Fighting Soul competition, the representative team of Shrek Academy was placed by the organizer in the highest floor and most prosperous suite of the hotel. The people of Shrek Academy checked into the Xinghuang Hotel yesterday. At this time, the players who were able to come to the competition, together with the team leader Wang Yan, gathered in the conference room for a pre-match meeting. First, Wang Yan briefly explained the rules of the competition to everyone, so that the reserve team members who had never participated in the competition could understand the specific way of the fighting spirit competition. But when they heard that the first round was the knockout round, their faces became solemn. Seeing this, Wang Yan and Ma Ateo and others immediately comforted them and let them relax. Since it was the first game, Wang Yan only encouraged the reserve team members and did not formulate any tactics. After a few simple words, he let the 7 reserve team members go to rest first, leaving only the 3 players of the regular team and Dai Yun's. After the reserve team members left the conference room, Wang Yan's smiling expression suddenly became solemn, and Dai Yun's felt his heart tighten. Afterwards, Wang Yan began to ask Ma Xiaotao about the injuries of the 3 people and estimated when they could recover. This was exactly the same as what Dai Yun's remembered. Ling Luchen was the least injured among the 3 and would need about 10 days to recover, followed by Ma Xiaotao and finally Dai Yuhen. After asking about the conditions of the 3, Wang Yan turned his gaze to Dai Yun's, followed by Ma Xiaotao and the other 2. Seeing them staring at him, Dai Yun's felt a little uncomfortable. Chapter 512 Competition Opening. Teacher Wang, what do you want me to do? Please tell me directly, Dai Yun's couldn't help but said. Wang Yan looked at him carefully for a while, sighed, and said, Yun's, are you wondering why you were brought here to participate in the competition? Dai Yun's was stunned. He didn't expect that Wang Yan was going to say this, but he was also very curious, so he continued to say, yes, and I don't understand why the next Shrek 7 devils are already complete, but there is still an 8th person like me. Teacher Wang, do you know why? Wang Yan hesitated for a moment and said, sorry, Yun's. Hearing him say this, Dai Yun's understood that it must be related to some confidential information and he couldn't tell him. Wang Yan continued, but what I can tell you is that even if Xiaotao and the others can't participate in the battle for the time being, with you here, you will definitely be able to easily hold on until Xiaotao and the others recover, or the Academy sends new support. This is not only the result of my observation of your ability, but also my confidence in the Academy's judgment. But do you know what Master Zhuan told me before he left? Dai Yun shook his head. Master Zhuan told me that after the discussion at the Sea God Pavilion, whether or not you participate in the All-Continental High-Level Soul Master Academy Soul Fighting Competition is entirely up to your personal will. We cannot force you to participate in the competition for any reason. Not only Dai Yun's, but also Ma Xiaotao and the other 2 looked at Wang Yan in surprise. Wang Yan noticed the gazes of several people and smiled bitterly. I don't know what the intention of the Academy is to make such an arrangement, but it is after all a decision made at the Sea God Pavilion meeting, and we must abide by it. But Yun's, I still hope you can help the reserve team. After all, they are still too young now. Dai Yun's glanced at Wang Yan and said nothing. But Dai Yun's and Hou Yuhao are also of the same age? Ma Xiaotao, who was sitting next to Wang Yan, suddenly spoke. Dai Yuhen and Ling Luchen both nodded in agreement. Wang Yan was stunned, and smiled bitterly. Yeah, I actually overlooked this. He waved his hand and said to Dai Yun's, it's okay, Yun's, you should go and rest first. But I still reserve my opinion. I hope you can help them. Dai Yun's neither confirmed nor denied, just stood up and said, I will consider it, Teacher Wang. Then he turned and walked out of the meeting room. After watching him leave, Wang Yan set his sights on the 3 selected players. What do you think? Ling Luchen, who spoke the least, spoke first. He doesn't seem to have a strong desire to participate. Ma Xiaotao said, I have been paying attention to him since the time you signed us up. When he knew that his name was also reported, he was very depressed, as if he had something to hide. When he heard that he could not participate in the competition just now, I felt that he suddenly relaxed a lot. Dai Yuheng was silent and did not speak. He did not pay attention to these things at all. He was just wondering why he could not be more careful, which led to the current situation. Wang Yan sighed. Now it depends on the performance of the reserve team. I believe they can hold on. Okay, that's all for today. You 3 should go and rest first and do your best to recover from your injuries. Yes, Dai Yun's returned to his room. He did not practice or rest. He just sat quietly in a chair and thought about something. When Wang Yan went to register for everyone to participate, he also reported his name. When he learned the news, he really felt very uncomfortable. The All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Fighting Competition is completely different from his previous experience. It's not that Dai Yun's is arrogant. His strength is really strong enough to beat most of the people who will participate in the future. Like Yu Wuking, the Soul King who almost made Shrek Academy lose in the original book, if his strength had not undergone any unexpected changes due to the butterfly effect, then Dai Yun's would have been able to defeat him without any pressure. There is no other reason. First of all, Yu Wuking's attack method can't hit Dai Yun's at all. And the energy of the dark demon evil god tiger that has not been fully absorbed in his body is the trump card to ensure that he can continue to fight at a high intensity. In other words, in a one-on-one duel, he could easily consume any participating soul master to death. Of course, Meng Hongqian still had doubts, and Dai Yun's didn't know if he could be immune to her strange red-eyed ice toad poison. Therefore, if Dai Yun's played in the competition, many battles that Shrek Academy found difficult in the original book would no longer be a big problem. But in this way, it would be different from the direction of the original book. He would have to worry about whether the timeline would deviate, which would affect his life. It was really strange to think about it. He had obviously tried his best to stay out of it, but it seemed that there was always someone pushing him into the depths of the time vortex, wanting him to leave a shadow on every big event on the timeline. Although Dai Yun still couldn't figure it out, the seeds of doubt had quietly sprouted in his heart. Anyway, he didn't have to participate in the competition now, and his life would not be threatened. As for whether to play in the game, Dai Yun's thought of the battle with the evil soul master not long ago, and the decision he made in his heart was unconsciously changed. It depends on the situation. But now, he still wants to escape. The next day, the exciting continental competition finally opened in Xingluo Square. After the opening speech by the current emperor of Xingluo Empire, the atmosphere of the whole venue was pushed to a climax, especially after the referee read out the name of the academy participating in the first game today. Almost everyone was shouting the name of the first academy in the whole continent. Shrek! 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 In the waiting area of the participating teams, Wang Yan glanced at the Shrek students. What disappointed him was that he did not see the figure he expected among these geniuses. Mazaya Ateo, who came to support the first game of the reserve team, said, Dai Yun's is still not here. Wang Yan shook his head and said, everything is decided by the senior management of the academy, depending on Dai Yun's wishes. Dai Yuhang, then we can only let the reserve team go, cheer them on. Ling Luchen stared at his toes and said nothing. Wang Yan sighed softly and looked at the 7 students in the reserve team. They were all children who had seen such a big scene for the first time. They inevitably had some fear in their eyes, but they did not show it on their faces. They all stood upright, ready to fight at any time. Seeing this scene, Wang Yan was full of relief. He began to let the reserve team members relax and told them that the opponent was not as strong as they imagined. The 3 selected players also comforted them. They were also the reserve team members of the previous All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul competition. They were just as nervous when they first came to the competition. But as elites selected by Shrek Academy, they only need to be firm in one thing. They are the most talented soul masters on the field. The plot of this Fighting Soul competition will not be very long, and it may even be very short. So when you watch it, you may see a very long time span, such as the last chapter is just starting, and the next chapter is several days later. Thank you for the recommendation votes and monthly ticket support from all the little angels. See you tomorrow. Woohoo! Why didn't any friends pay attention to me, and I didn't even see the squeak doge appear in the comment area. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 513 The Awakening of Time. Star King Hotel. Dai Yun stayed alone in his room, sitting cross-legged on the bed meditating and practicing. He knew that today was Shrek's first game, but he just needed some time to think clearly. Besides, he had more important things to do than participating in the game. After returning to Shrek Academy from the starred-out Great Forest, although it was not obvious at first, Dai Yun still felt that a mysterious power was slowly awakening in his body. When he first felt that power, Dai Yun didn't know what it was. Until now. After the previous battle with the evil soul master, the revived power in his body seemed to respond to the changes in his heart and began to show its true face. Last night, Dai Yun began to actively contact that power, and at this time he finally saw the source of that power. Time. It was the time attribute ability that he had been unable to drive. For some reason, the time attribute that was originally uncontrollable seemed to be triggered when he didn't know, and then gradually awakened, making his innate ability complete. With the awakening of the time attribute, Dai Yun's various abilities suddenly had a process of integration. His mental power became stronger as time passed, as if benefiting from the profound information brought by time. His soul power was also growing rapidly, and time seemed to accelerate the body's absorption of various energies in the body. Also in time, the past scenes were played in front of his eyes like a movie, and he was like a bystander who watched his life, from infancy to death, and then from infancy to now. But the movie that belonged to him had not been played completely, and the invisible part was blank, with only a little blurry image on it. When his eyes looked over, there was a faint picture about to emerge from the blank curtain, but the clearer the picture, the more his soul felt trembling, as if when it was no longer blurry, something very terrible would happen. Dai-Yun's also realized that the blank space he could not see was the future. And those who peek into the future generally do not have a good end. Is this the reason why the young man has been preventing the timeline from deviating? Not only to avoid the possible so-called multiverse war, but also because changing the timeline is equivalent to peeking into the future to some extent? But why did he stop himself from seeing the future? What secrets are there? Dai-Yun's couldn't figure it out, but he was also very secretive. He didn't explore too much, just immersed in the benefits brought by time awakening. Naturally, he also entered a deep meditation state as expected. But his deep meditation was very different from the general one. His consciousness was still very clear, and he could sense all changes in the outside world and could also get out of deep meditation at any time. On the first day, at the cost of Hou Hao and Wang Dong's overdrawn soul power, the reserve team beautifully completed the first battle of Shrek Academy. Dai-Yun's didn't wake up. On the second day, Shrek Academy entered the round-robin competition. With Su Sanchi's strength alone, he won 3 consecutive victories against the opponent in a one-on-one competition. Dai-Yun's didn't wake up. On the third day, Hou Hao made another move, and the 600,000-year soul rings madly impacted everyone's nerves. Dai-Yun still didn't wake up. Until the fourth day. It came to a very critical time point in the original work, which was also a station that completely exposed the current situation of the Shrek Academy team. Just like an alarm clock, when time slowly moved to that point, as if responding to some kind of call, Dai-Yun's consciousness broke away from the flow of time and opened his eyes. Compared to a few days ago, his eyes became deeper, like an ancient well that had experienced years of sedimentation but was as calm as still water. All the mysteries in the world seemed to flow in his eyes. Staring at those eyes, there was an inexplicable illusion of seeing the past and present. But as the soul power in his body gradually stopped functioning, that mysterious feeling began to recede from his body, and his deep blue eyes also restored the purity of the youth in the past, but the gloomy color in his eyes was like a stone that could not be moved, ruining a good landscape painting. Dai-Yun's had been sitting cross-legged on the bed for 3 days, but he did not feel any discomfort in his body. All of this was due to the energy of the dark demon evil god tiger in his body. With this energy, Dai-Yun's cultivation before the 7th ring was not a problem. He got out of bed, stretched his body, his bones crackled, and his figure seemed to be a little taller. The waist and abdomen wrapped in the fitted clothes were exposed as the boy stretched his arms, and the thin waistline could be vaguely seen, which was very pleasing to the eye. After running to the bathroom to wash up, he could hear the movement in the surrounding rooms. It seemed that someone was talking about match, give up, go all out, no regrets and so on. Dai-Yun's turned his eyes and realized that today should be the key battle. Although he didn't want to be involved in this kind of college fight, Dai-Yun's decided to go and watch today's game. Looking at the time, Dai-Yun's estimated that several people in the reserve team were still in a meeting. The voices he heard just now came from the meeting room next door. He didn't plan to go to the meeting because he didn't want to see a group of people looking at him with expectant eyes. He just pretended that he was still in deep meditation and went there after the game started. At least now, he has no ability to respond to other people's expectations. He can only give them disappointment. But he vaguely remembered that to enter Xingluo Square, he had to wear the uniform of the college team to prove his identity. Dai-Yun's thought about it and it seemed that Wang Yan had given him a set, so he walked out of the bathroom and started looking for it. Meeting room. The atmosphere inside was a little solemn at this time. Wang Yan wanted to give up this game and let the reserve team save their strength to prepare for the All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul competition, which would be held by them in 5 years. Now is the round-robin stage. Even if they give up this game, it will not affect the promotion of Shrek Academy. Moreover, starting from the next game, Soul King Ling Luchan will be able to fully recover. If he plays in the game, the remaining round-robin games will not be a problem, and the pressure on the reserve team will be much less. In contrast, it will not affect the promotion to the quarterfinals and can hide the strength of the reserve team. Giving up this most difficult game at present is the most correct choice, no matter how you look at it. But the reserve team members are unwilling to give up. As a teacher, Wang Yan can't bear to hit the fighting spirit of these children. He just looks at the empty seat in the meeting room from time to time. If Dayun's is willing to play. But unfortunately, the opponent entered a deep meditation state a few days ago. Now he is not on the meeting room. He should still be practicing. So Wang Yan finally said to the reserve team members, "It doesn't matter, kids. Whether you win or lose, you are the most dazzling new stars." Chapter 514 What Can't Be Escaped is. The game started. The Shrek team, which had attracted much attention, entered Douluo Square under the leadership of Wang Yan, and went straight to the waiting area belonging to Shrek, where they sat down, waiting to draw lots and then compete. Unlike the people who cheered like at Tsunami, many teams from the academies were surprised and puzzled when they saw the players from Shrek who came today. It was because the players sent by Shrek were too young, and they were members of the reserve team no matter how you looked at them. But now, the members of the reserve team were actually used as the main force, and their opponent today was the academy that advanced to the quarterfinals of the last competition, and now had a strong team with 3 Soul Kings. As for the 600,000-year soul rings that Hao revealed twice, except for the ordinary people, no one in these academy teams believed it. That is to say, what Shrek planned to send out was at most a team of all soul sects. How could they fight against the 3 Soul Kings of the opponent? If the draw was a team battle later, it would be good, and Shrek still had a little chance of winning. But if it was an individual elimination match and a 2-2-3 battle method, they would not be optimistic about Shrek at all. Perhaps, the myth of Shrek's undefeated for 10,000 years would end today. But they did not feel regretful, they just wondered why the team that ruined Shrek's undefeated myth was not from their own academy. Time passed by amid the cheers of the audience, and the referee on the field had asked the representatives of both sides of the game to draw lots. Shrek Academy, against Xiangshan Academy. Biba and the opponent's representative, the Soul King named Yi Wuking, almost came to the referee at the same time to witness the result of the draw. 2-2-3 battle method. The moment they learned of this result, everyone in Shrek changed their expressions. But the result has been decided, no matter how unwilling they are, they must accept it. Although the hope is slim, the eyes of everyone in the reserve team are all burning with fire. They still have no intention of giving up. Everything was done according to the original. Biba took over the command from Wang Yan, quickly arranged the order of the 7 players, and then stepped into the waiting area together, ready to play at any time. And at the moment they entered the waiting area, a figure that had never been seen before appeared in the rest area belonging to Shrek. He was also wearing the traditional dark green uniform of Shrek, and was also young, but for some reason, the aura emanating from him was much stronger than the 7 reserve players who were about to play. It was Dayun's who came to watch the game. The newly appeared Shrek players naturally attracted the attention of many people, and they all cast curious glances. The moment Wang Yan saw Dayun's, his eyes lit up, and he immediately walked over and said, "Dayun's, are you willing to play?" But soon, the excitement on his face faded. Because after the players of both sides entered the waiting area, they could no longer change players, and even if Dayun's came now, it would be useless. As expected, Dayun saw the disappointment on Wang Yan's face. Before he could say anything, he spoke first. "Teacher Wang, I just came here to watch the game, I don't mean to play in the game." After saying that, he may feel that this is too heartless, so he added, "But don't worry, although this game is difficult, they will win in the end." Dayun also knew that his words were not very convincing, but he didn't want to explain more. He walked straight into the last row of chairs in the rest area and sat down, quietly looking at the direction of the competition stage. His original intention was just to come here to watch the game, but for some reason, after entering the Douluo Square, the noisy scene made his heart a little confused, especially when Su Sanchi and Zhang Nanan played in the first round on behalf of Shrek. The complexity of his emotions reached a peak. To advance from the round-robin tournament, it is not required to win every round of the round-robin tournament, so the efforts of the 7 reserve team in this game are actually completely unnecessary, but they still went on the court without hesitation, even though the strength of the 2 sides was very different. Everything is just to maintain the so-called Shrek glory and maintain the myth of Shrek's undefeated for 10,000 years. Is the charm of Shrek Academy really so strong that it is worth such a group of young men and women to do their best for it? Dai Yuns initially entered Shrek Academy to study, just to complete the youth's mission, and by the way, to see if Hao was doing well there. After studying in that school for so long, he also understood that Hao had already regarded it as his home, and had a very good partner. Even the bedding he prepared for Hao early on has not been given out yet, because Wang Dong had already prepared it for him. Don't look at him before, after saving Mazia Ateo and the others, he said to Zhuan Lao, "We are all members of Shrek, it's alright." That was just a polite remark he had to say. To put it bluntly, Dai Yuns never considered himself a part of Shrek Academy from the beginning to the end. He did not fight for anything in the academy. Even the status of core disciple and the fact that he came to participate in the All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul competition were not his own choice. He was even given these identities for no apparent reason. But neither the teachers of Shrek Academy nor the elders of Poseidon Pavilion asked him to do anything. Even for this All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul competition, Poseidon Pavilion gave instructions that it was up to him to participate or not. Shrek Academy almost gave Dai Yuns the highest tolerance. Even if Dai Yuns himself did not want to be too deeply involved with Shrek Academy, these things had quietly linked him to the school. And the more Dai Yuns wanted to escape from all of this and stop any possibility of deviation from the timeline, the more painful the part of his soul that was shining and flashing with a strong light, called human nature, felt. Perhaps from the moment he knew that he had become a core disciple, he should have taken the initiative to ask the academy to remove his core disciple status. In that case, perhaps none of these things would have happened now. But if he had not become a core disciple, he would not have been able to go to the treasure appreciation meeting, and he would not have been able to get the mysterious finger bone with the ability of death upon touch. Everything seemed to be connected together, one link after another, tightly connected, like a net that could never be escaped. And this net was specially prepared for him. Dai Yuns realized that it was the calculation and arrangement of that young man again, and he once again became an unwitting chess piece in the hands of the other party. The other party used invisible means to force him to face the critical point that might cause the timeline to deviate, but warned him that he would die once the timeline deviated. What exactly does he want to do? To play with himself? Thank you all little angels for your recommendation votes and monthly tickets. See you tomorrow. Chapter 515. What I saw. The game was in full swing. The one sent by Zangshan Academy was the Soul King with the Angel Martial Spirit, who had 5 soul rings with a best ratio of 2 yellow, 2 purple and 1 black. Her teammate was a Soul Master with a dagger as his martial spirit. The river of time flowed peacefully along the river, heading in the direction it should go. Just like the description in the original book, Su Sanchi fought against the 2 people from Zangshan Academy alone because Jiang Nanan burst out the Zuan Wu power hidden in his blood, entangled the Angel Martial Spirit Soul King, and won a fleeting opportunity for Jiang Nanan. At that moment, Dai Yuns, who was closely watching the situation on the field, seemed to be attracted by something, and the picture in his eyes began to slow down until the faces of the 4 people on the field became extremely clear. It seemed that someone pressed the fast-forward button, and the 4 people who were almost still a second ago began to move at an unimaginable speed the next moment. And the weird thing was that even though the speed of the 4 people became quite fast, Dai Yuns could still see their every move clearly. He saw Jiang Nanan teleport behind the Angel Soul King, and stepped on his lower back with 1 foot. The soul ring on her body flashed, and in an instant she used 2 soul skills to kick the Angel Soul King off the stage. But just when the Angel Soul King was knocked into the air, she suddenly swung the Angel Holy Sword in her hand and slashed at Jiang Nanan, but she actually knocked Jiang Nanan away, and then landed steadily. The picture froze at the moment when Jiang Nanan fell to the ground, and then quickly retreated to the moment when Su Sanchi restrained the Angel Soul King. Jiang Nanan teleported again, but this time she just came behind the Angel Soul King, and was shocked by the golden flames that suddenly erupted from the Angel Soul King, and fell to the ground again. Retreating again, repeating again in different ways, but the final scene ended with Jiang Nanan landing. Until one time, Jiang Nanan failed to dodge the attack of the Angel Soul King and was stabbed in the waist and abdomen by a sword. Dai Yuns heard a buzz in his brain, and the picture in front of him turned into endless darkness. Jiang Nanan's death seemed to have brought some bad results. He was so scared that he quickly closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he saw Jiang Nanan kicking the Angel Soul King off the competition stage. Nothing unexpected happened. The pictures he saw just now seemed to be just hallucinations. Or in other words, those pictures are actually possibilities. Each picture represents a possibility. That is, a timeline. Countless pictures represent countless possibilities, that is, countless timeline branches. Daiyun's was sure that the time power in his body was triggered by unknown reasons just now, which made him see those pictures, and the ending of Zhang Nanin's accidental death should be the incident that could cause a major deviation in the timeline. After that incident, he suddenly couldn't see any pictures, indicating that time had undergone some uncertain changes, and it was completely unknown from then on. That is the red timeline mentioned by the young man, or even the black timeline. The power of time in the body can be triggered, allowing oneself to see those pictures, which should be the key point in the long river of time. Different choices at the key points can trigger different events, and different events can trigger different time branches. Daiyun vaguely understands why the young man is so taboo about the deviation of the timeline. Just thinking about such a huge time branch makes Daiyun feel a headache. But if his current guesses are correct, does it mean that he can rely on these pictures to avoid those events that will cause major deviations in the timeline, and thus intervene in certain key points to a certain extent? Daiyun felt that his heartbeat suddenly accelerated. He tried to actively guide the power of time in his body, follow his memory, and try to see what he wanted to see. When the picture in Daiyun's memory reached the second round of the game, when Hikatao and Xia Oxio were about to play, that wonderful feeling appeared again. In the memory, the movements of Hikatao and Xia Oxio became extremely fast, but in his eyes they were extremely clear. Hikatao and Xia Oxio kept playing, kept failing, and kept going back to the beginning. The beginning and the end were the same, but the process was slightly different. Daiyun looked at the rapidly flashing screen, and felt a little anxious. Although he had seen many kinds of screens, those were not the possibilities he wanted. Perhaps it was because he felt the urgency in his heart that Daiyun finally saw his own figure in the latest screen. He saw Wang Yan and himself walking towards the waiting area, but when he just stepped into that area, his eyes suddenly went black, and a familiar buzzing sound rang in his mind. Daiyun looked a little stunned. Would just going there trigger an event of absolute deviation? That wonderful feeling began to fade away, as if it felt the depression in the owner's heart, and the power also began to fade away. The picture in Daiyun's eyes returned to normal. At this time, it was time for Hikatao and Xia Oxio to play together. He did not look at the two people with firm eyes on the court, but slowly lowered his head, as if he was thinking about something in the eyes of others. But in fact, now, the expression on Daiyun's face is full of heaviness and confusion. Even though he has the power of time, time itself is too huge and heavy. The more he understands and the more he uses it, the more he feels breathless. Because it seems that no matter what, there is no hope. Daiyun was silent for a long time, and finally just sighed and stood up. He didn't want to stay here any longer. It was really uncomfortable to watch everything happen but feel powerless. But as soon as he took a step, that wonderful feeling suddenly swept over his body, making him freeze in place. Daiyun's pupils shrank sharply, as if he saw something very bad. And in fact, this is exactly the case. At this time, the fast flickering picture appeared in his eyes again, but this time there was only one picture. He left Xingluo Square, and then the world in front of him fell into darkness. What does it mean? Is leaving a major deviation from the timeline? Why? Why is it related to him? What is going on? Daiyun's thoughts are running fast, and the buzzing sound in his mind is stronger than ever before. It seems that if he takes another step forward, he will die. Although he didn't understand the situation, Daiyun didn't dare to act rashly. He had no choice but to sit back and recall everything he had just seen, not missing any details. Chapter 516 Draw. Very strange. Obviously, Daiyun just wanted to leave Xingluo Square and return to Xinghuang Hotel, but it seemed that some taboo was triggered. Once he left, the timeline would deviate significantly. Daiyun recalled the scene he had just seen. He stood up from the seat in the exclusive viewing area of Shrek Academy and walked towards the outside of Xingluo Square, but when he just stepped into the entrance and exit passage, the scene in front of him fell into darkness. Darkness means the unknown, which means that when he left Xingluo Square, the timeline unswervingly rushed to the unknown area and deviated irreversibly. Daiyun recalled it several times and finally found a possible abnormality in that scene. In the picture, he had just stepped into the entrance and exit passage of Xingluo Square. When all the scenes were about to return to darkness, not far away, Hou Hao, who was quietly standing in the waiting area ready to play, turned his head and looked at him. It was after this glance that the picture fell into darkness. So it was related to Hou Hao? Dai Yuns didn't know what his leaving Xingluo Square had to do with Hou Hao, but since Hou Hao, the protagonist of the original novel, was involved, it was only natural that the timeline would deviate significantly. The reason was simple. If Dai Yuns suddenly had a brain attack one day and killed Hou Hao, the timeline would deviate irreversibly. Without the protagonist, the subsequent plots in the original novel would naturally not happen, and a new timeline would take its place. In addition, anything related to the protagonist needed to be treated with caution, because if you were not careful, the plot in the original novel might never happen again. This was the case with the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul competition, in which Hou Hao participated almost throughout the entire process, which was why Dai Yuns was unwilling to participate. In short, since leaving would lead to irreversible deviation of the timeline, although Dai Yuns didn't know the reason, in order to save his life, wouldn't he just not leave Xingluo Square? Dai Yuns turned his attention back to the competition field. At this time, Xiao Xiao's true cultivation was completely exposed to everyone. Facing a Soul King and a Soul Sect from Xiangshan College, this young girl with a green face showed no fear at all. She resolutely stood in front of He Tao, who was a Soul Sect, to buy time for the opponent. When Dai Yuns saw Xiao Xiao trying her best to use the strongest national heavy weapon, Tripod Shock to block the last blow of the opponent's Soul King for He Tao, and his martial soul was broken, his palm holding the armrest of the chair tightened. Although she fell, Xiao Xiao's face was still unyielding. Even if she was weak, she would bite off a piece of meat from her opponent. The super energy soul god cannon that He Tao had been accumulating power was also fired at the moment when Xiao Xiao fainted. The terrifying white beam completely enveloped the two people from Xiangshan College. The power of the soul god cannon cut a deep hole on the competition stage, splashing countless gravel. Exhausted, He Tao struggled to climb above Xiao Xiao and used his body to create a safe space for him, but in the end, he still fell down and fell into coma like Xiao Xiao. At the moment when He Tao fell, Dai Yuns was once again swept by the wonderful feeling. And his eyes saw the rapidly flashing picture again. But this time the picture did not freeze and repeat, as if the power of time wanted to present him with only one possibility. When the terrifying white beam of the super-concentrated Soul God Cannon was shot out, the Soul Master of Xiangshan Academy, who was still out of range, suddenly seemed to be pushed by someone and fell towards the beam of the Soul God Cannon, giving people the feeling that he himself rushed towards the muzzle. The next moment, he and the Soul King of Xiangshan Academy disappeared together in the white soul power beam, and no one could see their figures. At this time, the gravel on the competition stage was flying, and He Tao protected Xiao Xiao under him. But soon after, as if it was certain that the rubble would not cause any more harm to He Tao and Xiao Xiao, the next moment, He Tao fell down and lay beside Xiao Xiao. The culprit who caused these two seemingly unexpected things was a young man shrouded in blue-black light. He stood on the competition stage so openly, unscrupulously doing some small tricks to the contestants on both sides, as if no one noticed him at all. After doing all this, the young man seemed to have noticed something, and turned his head to Dai Yuns, and his eyes collided with Dai Yuns's. This look at each other, Dai Yuns's mind was suddenly shocked. It was him. And the next moment, he saw the young man grinning at him. There was a buzz in his mind, and the picture in front of him quickly dissipated. As if seeing something extremely terrifying, the power of time in his body quickly dissipated, but this time the retreat of the power seemed to take away something of Dai Yuns. After his vision returned to normal, Dai Yuns recovered from his slightly dazed state and looked at the situation on the stage. The two students from Xiangshan Academy had bitter expressions on their faces, and He Tao and Xiao Xiao were unconscious on the ground. After checking the conditions of the two Shrek players, the referee quickly left the field, but only 3 seconds later, he returned to the field again and announced to everyone loudly, the third round of the round-robin match, Shrek Academy vs Xiangshan Academy second game, draw. The entire Xingluo Square was instantly in an uproar. Dai Yuns stood up in shock, and many people reacted the same way as him, and the representatives of various academies who were also sitting in the rest area did the same. Draw. This is the first draw in this session of the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul Competition. In other words, it is the first draw in many sessions of the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul Competition. Most people are extremely surprised for this reason. But Dai Yun's is different. The reason why he was so surprised that he stood up unconsciously was because this result was different from the original plot. He knew. Draw. Why is it a draw? What happened? Dai Yun's looked around in a daze. He felt like he had forgotten something, but recalling it over and over again made him sure that his memory was not blank. He clearly did nothing, but there were still some differences from the original. Why? He stood there in a daze, distressed, as if he really didn't remember what he had just seen. It was as if that period of time in his life was cut out by someone. It was as simple as editing a video. Thank you all for your recommendation and monthly tickets. See you tomorrow. Tang Liu, who is making small moves. Ha ha ha, no one can see me. I really don't poke. Controlling the direction of the event is just a matter of sprinkling water. Huh? Dai Yun's, who witnessed everything. Tang Liu, oh my, you actually crossed over the future and saw me? It's worthy of the power of time. But don't worry, look at my secret technique. The video cannot be photoshopped, the universal editing method. Dai Yun saw Tang Liu showing him a kind smile. Ooh, Cyrillic letter there. Chapter 517 Victory. The referee gave the reason for the tie, after discussion by the organizing committee of the competition, in the second match between Shrek Academy and Zhangshan Academy. In the third round of the round-robin tournament, 2 players from Zhangshan Academy could not survive the attack of the super energy soul god cannons of Shrek students and K Tao, but when the students of Zhangshan Academy were hit, 2 students of Shrek Academy also fell unconscious, and it was determined that the players of both sides died together, and the match was a tie. The third round of the round-robin tournament has not yet ended, and the third decisive battle between Shrek Academy and Zhangshan Academy is about to begin. Although the second game ended quickly, the enthusiasm of the audience was still unprecedentedly high at this time, and they were still applauding Zio Zio. Following the whistling applause, the players of the last round of the 2 academies stepped onto the competition venue. Hou Hao and Wang Dong walked side by side and followed Bei Bei to the competition venue. At this time, Hou Hao's face no longer had the indifference and profoundness that he pretended to have when he came on the court before, but only extreme calmness and the burning fighting spirit in his eyes. In this game, Su Sanchi was injured and Zio Zio's spirit was broken, so whether for the glory of Shrek or for all his teammates, they must win. The black-haired boy, full of fighting spirit, subconsciously looked at the viewing area belonging to Shrek Academy, looking at the figure sitting quietly. From the moment the other party came to Xingluo Square, he was aware of the other party's existence. Although Hou Hao couldn't figure out why Dai Yun's was unwilling to participate in the competition with him, he also secretly felt a little resentment towards Dai Yun's in his heart. But the little boy just felt that Dai Yun's was unwilling to appear on the same stage with him. Maybe he was worried about something. So soon, the little resentment in his heart disappeared. He just looked at the man proudly watching him silently, and swore in his heart, "Wait and see, I will definitely win this game." Thinking back to the various adventures that happened to him in the past year, the boy became more and more confident. Now he is undoubtedly also a peerless genius. Perhaps the only difference of the boy is that when others want Dai Yun's to fight for the glory of Shrek, he just wants to fight side by side with him. The child who used to need a not-so-tall figure to stand in front of him in everything has grown up now. He has enough ability to stand beside that figure and resist all kinds of winds and sands in this world together. That's all the boy wants Dai Yun's to see. But that person seems to be unable to see it now, or pretends not to see it deliberately. But it doesn't matter, he will prove himself in the end. Hou Hao looked at the 3 opponents from Zhangshan Academy who were much higher than him in cultivation, and his heart sank slightly. He called out to the 2 existences in his mind who were both teachers and friends. Especially the most powerful one at present. "Ice Emperor, help me," a gentle response sounded in the boy's spiritual sea, and only he could hear it. But that was the boy's greatest reliance. This battle was destined to be tragic and tragic. Bei Bei, Hou Hao, and Wang Dong, all 3 of them played their trump cards. Bei Bei, who forcibly upgraded the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex martial soul to the level of the Light Holy Dragon, tried his best to consume the 10,000-year soul skill of the Soul King Yi Wuking, which required a lot of soul power. Hou Hao and Wang Dong almost fell into the trap set by the Soul Master with a Fireball martial soul. They escaped with the help of the Everfreeze domain, but they also consumed almost all of their Haodong power. At this time, the Soul Master with the Soul Capture Bell martial soul from Zhangshan Academy suddenly showed a mind control soul skill, took advantage of the opportunity to control Bibai, and Hou Yuhao and Wang Dong could only use the Golden Road to seal Bibai's martial soul and Yu Wuking together, and then rush towards Yu Wuking with the remaining Hao Dong power. In the end, relying on the Ice Emperor's wrath controlled by the Ice Emperor, Yu Wuking was eliminated, and he himself fell down exhausted. Only Wang Dong and the Soul Master with his Soul Capture Bell martial soul were left on the field. Everything went according to plan. Dai Yun's looked anxious and excited, but he couldn't help feeling a little numb. But the numbness disappeared when a strong golden light suddenly bloomed between Wang Dong's eyebrows, and the world in front of him was also rendered by blue-black light. The laughter of the young man sounded in his ears. Although I really want to see you eat the sea god, I can't do it now. Dai Yun's was just slightly stunned, and then continued to focus on the game. The same situation also occurred in the duel between Hou Yuhao and Wu Feng. That time, it was the breath of Alex that triggered the god-devouring instinct of his second martial soul. As for Wang Dong, Dai Yun's actually had little contact with her, and naturally almost forgot that she was the daughter of the sea god. As a god king, Tang San had already placed a seal belonging to the gods in Wang Dong's Sea of Spirit to protect Wang Dong's safety. Now that the seal was triggered, the breath of the gods naturally leaked out. If the young man did not help him isolate it, Dai Yun's would definitely be completely controlled by the instincts of the second martial soul and rush up to tear Wang Dong apart. But Dai Yun's was not too concerned about these things at the moment. He was still staring at the situation on the field. He was not relieved until the referee blocked the clear sky hammer thrown by Wang Dong for the soul-snatching Bell Soul Sect. The blue light in front of him lasted for a long time before gradually dissipating. At this time, Wang Dong had exhausted all his strength and forced Hou Yuhao and Bei Bei, who were unconscious on the ground, to stand up. This scene was like a huge rock that broke the barrier, shattering all the hesitation and fear in Dai Yun's heart. He immediately stood up from the seat in the rest area and wanted to rush to the stage regardless of everything. Not for anything else, just to pick up the unconscious boy. But when his foot just crossed the shadow of the rest area awning and was about to land on the ground illuminated by the light, he stopped. It was a very abrupt stop. The morning sun was warm and pleasant, but Dai Yun's foot seemed to be burned by the dazzling light and quickly pulled back. He just huddled in the shadow of the awning, looking at the three reserve players who were unconscious but still standing tenaciously on the stage. He stared for a long time, then suddenly looked away. It was as if the light on the three people pierced his eyes. Look at them, the center of attention, tenacious, fighting to the end for the glory of Shrek Academy. But he didn't even have the courage to step onto that field. Obviously, they were far inferior to their opponents, but they still persisted. When everyone was not optimistic about them, they won the victory at the critical moment, but it seemed as if it was destined. Chapter 518. Who are you? They fought desperately for victory. In order not to be wiped out by the young man, he shrank into the shadow of darkness and avoided everything. As he escaped more and more times, he seemed to have lost the courage to even look at it. Is this the person he really wants to be? He obviously just wants to become stronger and wipe out all the hatred for Hou Yuhao. Hate and evil are inflicted on me, and you enjoy all the praises in the light. For these, he did not hesitate to make himself a child of the Duchess in the eyes of everyone, and personally twisted the original reality into a look that he himself hated. He escaped in front of Hou Yuhao, as if he had been in the darkness for too long and could no longer adapt to the light emanating from him. Dai Yun's asked himself, he had actually done most of what he should do. The Duchess had taken a deadly poison and was cursed by him personally. The biggest enemy of the three of them, mother and son, seemed to have received retribution. He would find the remaining people one by one in the future. But what about after that? Since Dai Yun's became Long Xiaoyao's apprentice in Mingdao Mountain Range that day, everything he did was for revenge. But then, where should he go? Other travelers can still follow the protagonists to do something big, and make choices that he dare not choose at the key points that he is afraid to avoid. And Dai Yun's, after completing everything he should do, may only be worthy of hiding in the dark, silently watching a timeline that has nothing to do with him. In that case, what is the meaning of his existence in this universe? No, he is not a person in this universe, and perhaps he has no meaning in this world. Because he has been in the light, when he is trapped in the darkness, he will be more and more eager to stand in the light and shine. Similarly, he will be more and more eager to become such a shining person. Either crawl out of the darkness and try to touch that light, or continue to retreat into deeper darkness and say goodbye to the light completely. What kind of person will I be? Yuns didn't know how he finally got back to the hotel room. He just left Xingluo Square silently when everyone was in tears and excited. While everyone was listening attentively to Wang Yan's explanation of the whole story and was moved by the 7 members of the reserve team, Yuns walked to the place that he subconsciously thought was safe. After returning to the room, he did not practice, nor did he do anything else. He just sat on a chair in the room, his eyes empty, and the question kept echoing in his mind. When we were young, our world was either black or white. Good people were good people, and bad people were bad people. After growing up, good people don't seem to be good people, and bad people don't seem to be so bad sometimes. People seem to be really complicated, so complicated that people can't even see themselves clearly. That problem is not limited to good people and bad people, so Yuns can't figure it out now. He thinks he is a good person, because most people in the world are good people. But good people rarely take the initiative to care about people who have nothing to do with them. They seem to be becoming more and more indifferent, as if they have become accustomed to staying out of things. Because many good people have failed because of their kindness to others, and their experiences have made other good people feel cold. And the warm light around them has also shrunk back cautiously, no longer illuminating the people around them easily. But if a good person does not help others in need, stands by and watches coldly, and ignores everything except himself, can he really be called a good person? What is the difference between him and a bad person? Is it that he has never hurt anyone? Then when someone asks for help but stands by and watches coldly, can this behavior be considered as harm? Yuns tried his best to avoid the answer, but his heart clearly told him the answer. If there is no difference between good and bad people, then there are only bad people and worse people in the world. At this time, people who are slightly less bad become the new good people. Yuns thought a little dazedly. When he stood by and watched coldly and stayed out of it, wasn't he the same as those bad people? Were all my previous choices wrong? Just like in that world, even though everyone seems to be becoming more and more indifferent, there are still many people who will help another person unconditionally like before. They are not unaware of the risks involved, but they just thought about it and did it. Their souls are still shining, constantly transmitting light to the surroundings. Indifferent people also retain the remaining warmth in their hearts, and will smile unconsciously when they see it occasionally. This world is still warm, closely connected by the light of those people, which is the fire of humanity and the fire of inheritance. As long as the fire is not extinguished, the world will not fall into true indifference and despair, and there will always be something worth remembering. And if it is not necessary, who does not want to be the kind of light that can bring warmth to others? I want to, too. But can I go one step further? Take that step bravely. Just like those who choose to help others, even if they know the possible risks, they still do it, to become the kind of light that others want to be? Ling Luchen recovered. This control-type Soul King with the Ice Elemental Martial Spirit came to participate in the competition with the Shrek team on the first day of recovery from his injury. In the 4th round of the round-robin competition, Shi and Hou Hao easily defeated the 7 opponents, allowing everyone to see the strength of Shrek Academy again. When the Shrek team left the field, the whole place was silent, and no one made a sound. Shrek, who had to fight hard to win the day before, suddenly showed its sharp fangs today and easily tore the opponent to pieces. This strong sense of contrast gave many people a very unreal feeling. And when they reacted, they cheered even more enthusiastically. Who cannot love such a powerful Shrek? If Shrek did not only accept monsters and not ordinary people, they could go to Shrek to sign up for school on the spot. But Yuns was still in his room and did not come out. Wang Yan took the time to take a look and found that Yuns seemed to have entered a state of deep meditation again, but this time it seemed a little different from the previous few days. After that, 3 more round-robin matches were played, and Shrek won them all easily, advancing to the top 16 as the first in the round-robin group. At this point, Mazaya Ateo and Yu Heng's injuries had also fully recovered, and the Shrek Academy team had finally recovered to its strongest state. But Yuns was still in his room and didn't come out. The round of 16 match soon arrived, with Shrek Academy playing against Dowling Academy. At this point in the match, the competition system had changed again. Each match was divided into 2 days, 1 day for the team competition and 1 day for the individual elimination competition. The victory in the team competition did not mean that the team could qualify, and the individual elimination competition was the key to the final victory. However, now that Shrek's 3 main players have recovered, Wang Yan is not too worried about anything going wrong. But Yuns was still in his room and didn't come out. 2 hours late. Sorry, the author was temporarily delayed for a while. The next chapter will transition quickly, and the top auction, the fight against Xingluo, etc. will be skipped because Daiyuns will not participate. The turning point of human nature is at the finals. Either you become a fearless and brave person, or you become a coward who escapes doge. Thank you for your recommendation votes and monthly votes. See you tomorrow. Chapter 519. Not fully awake yet. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Daiyuns didn't know how long he had been in this state. He only felt that his consciousness was muddled, drifting aimlessly in a chaos. Various thoughts echoed in his mind, binding him tightly like an unbreakable cocoon. But this cocoon was created by himself. Daiyuns had trapped himself in a vicious circle, a maze that he could hardly get out of now. In a trance, he seemed to see a little light in the darkness of his consciousness. Daiyuns didn't know what it was, but he still instinctively walked towards the light. The concept of time had long been blurred, and Daiyuns didn't know how long he had walked. But the light was always there. Sometimes it seemed to be closer, and sometimes it seemed to have not changed. Daiyuns didn't notice this. He just walked forward like a machine, as if approaching the light was just the only thought left in his consciousness. Finally, the light became clearer and clearer. Daiyuns approached it eagerly, raising his hand obsessively, wanting to touch it. But when his hands were about to carefully hold the light, his almost numb consciousness suddenly woke up. He looked at the faint light blankly and at a loss, and then took a step back like a frightened little animal, as if staying near the faint light would burn himself. At this time, he seemed to hear someone behind him calling his name again and again. So he turned around and wanted to look back. But when he turned around, he opened his eyes. So hungry. Daiyuns heard someone groaning. So hungry. It was not until the feeling of hunger swept over him like a tide that he realized that it was he who was groaning. He felt weak one after another in his body, and he couldn't help falling to the ground. But fortunately, his mental strength was quite abundant at this time. Although he didn't know why, it was enough for him to have a way to deal with the current situation. His eyes lit up with a pale golden light, and he used his mental power to take out a large piece of raw meat from the storage soul guide. After seeing a piece of raw meat and smelling the fishy smell on it, Daiyuns felt even more hungry. He used his mental power to control his right hand until it was placed on the large piece of raw meat. Devour. He gave the order in his mind, and a gray-white light also lit up on his palm. The light with a strong sense of death gradually covered the large piece of raw meat. The next moment, its size kept shrinking and shrinking in the gray-white light, and finally disappeared completely, all returning to the gray-white light and being reabsorbed into Daiyuns' body. After devouring the piece of raw meat, he also had the strength to stand up from the ground, and immediately took out a lot of food and nutrient solution from the storage soul guide, stuffing them into his mouth. Because he had just used the devouring talent, there was still a lingering evil light in his eyes at this time, and the behavior of him constantly stuffing food into his mouth now looked like gluttony. After a long time, Daiyuns finally got rid of the strong feeling of hunger. He breathed a sigh of relief, feeling that it was good to be full, and secretly thanked himself for storing a lot of food. After solving the problem of stomach, Daiyuns ran into the bathroom to take a shower, clean himself from head to toe before coming out, looking at the morning scene outside the window, secretly wondering how many days had passed. But just when he was in a daze, his eyes suddenly fell into a familiar darkness, and in front of him was the faint light. Daiyuns was surprised, but woke up from the darkness the next moment. Outside the window was still the prosperous scene of Xingluo City, and the darkness and light seemed to have become illusions. Daiyuns frowned, realizing that his current situation seemed to be a little special. His consciousness seemed to be divided into two parts. One part was awake, allowing him to control his body. The other part seemed to be left in the dark space, still standing in front of the faint light. What surprised him was that, although his consciousness seemed to be divided into two parts, the half that controlled his body now had more mental power than his complete self a few days ago. Could it be the result of deep meditation? What was his current state? When he was wondering, he suddenly heard a knock on his door. Daiyuns shouted "Wait a minute" and walked over to open the door. The one knocking on the door was none other than their team leader Wang Yan. After seeing Daiyuns, Wang Yan showed a little joy on his face and said, "Daiyuns, are you awake? You have been in deep meditation for 9 days. Daiyuns opened the door and let Wang Yan in, but after hearing what Wang Yan said, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. 9 days, no wonder he felt so hungry when he woke up. Wang Yan nodded and checked Dai Yun's current condition. Fortunately, except for a little malnutrition, there were no other problems. Today is the last match of the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy. We and the Sun Moon Royal Soul Master Academy are the final opponents. Since the Sun Moon continent was incorporated into our Douluo continent, our Shrek Academy has had a feud with the Sun Moon Royal Soul Master Academy. In the past, we always had a head start on them, but now, as their soul guides are becoming more and more advanced, if our Shrek Academy does not make some changes, I am afraid that it will soon be surpassed by the Sun Moon Royal Soul Master Academy. After seeing Dai Yun's, Wang Yan suddenly opened up his mouth, constantly pouring out his grievances and telling Dai Yun's his own views. After talking for a while, Wang Yan found that although Dai Yun's looked like he was listening very seriously, his eyes would occasionally be blank for a moment, but after a moment, he would regain clarity, as if he was trying his best to stay awake. Wang Yan, who is well informed, saw the problem. Since Dai Yun's was a student that the senior leaders of the academy valued very much, Wang Yan was also worried that Dai Yun's would have problems in his practice, so he asked, Dai Yun's? Are you okay? Wang Yan's shouting also made Dai Yun's, who was trapped in the dark space again, wake up. He looked at Wang Yan's eyes mixed with worry and curiosity, and said apologetically, sorry, Teacher Wang, please continue, I'm listening. Wang Yan looked at him carefully, did you have any problems with your practice? Dai Yun shook his head, hesitated for a moment, and said, Teacher Wang, although it sounds a bit far-fetched, I feel that my deep meditation seems to have not ended yet. He told Wang Yan in detail about the situation he encountered. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 520 Before the Finals. After listening, Wang Yan showed a bitter smile. He came to Dai Yun's today, not only to see if Dai Yun's woke up, but also to persuade Dai Yun's to go to the competition with others. But now it seems that even if Dai Yun's is willing to play, he is not suitable to fight in his current state. Wang Yan has some understanding of Dai Yun's current situation. It is indeed a feature of deep meditation that has not yet ended. This state of semi-detachment from the deep meditation state has appeared in some soul masters with strong mental power, and many examples are recorded in the ancient books of Shrek Academy. If Dai Yun's is sent to the field to fight now, who knows if he will suddenly enter deep meditation again in some key places, and what accidents will happen on the field? Even, Wang Yan thinks that Dai Yun's should continue to stay in the hotel and wait quietly for the end of the deep meditation state, and should not go to the field to be disturbed. Compared with a game, the future of a genius soul master like Dai Yun's is more important. Dai Yun's has entered a very rare deep meditation state twice in a row recently, and Wang Yan does not want Dai Yun's to give up such a great opportunity. Yun's, you should stay in the hotel and practice today. Xia Ateo and Yao Heng have recovered a long time ago. Although it is still a bit difficult to face the Sun Moon Royal Soul Instructor Academy, I have great confidence in them. You just need to wait for our good news here, Wang Yan said to Dai Yun's earnestly. Dai Yun's was silent for a moment, then asked, Teacher Wang, when will the competition start? Wang Yan said, it will be soon. We just finished the pre-war meeting and will gather at Xingluo Square later. Okay, I'm leaving first. You should practice well and don't waste the great opportunity of deep meditation. Dai Yun's watched Wang Yan leave, and his consciousness returned to the dark world for a moment. He looked at the faint light and let the little light fall freely in his eyes. Teacher Wang, he called Wang Yan who had already walked to the door. I'll go too. Dai Yun's walked quickly to Wang Yan's side. After all, it's the final of our academy, it's good to go and take a look. And maybe, he opened his mouth several times, but in the end he still couldn't say the words I can help too. Wang Yan was stunned for a moment. Maybe what? Dai Yun shook his head. Nothing. Wang Yan did not delve into it, but just reminded, since you want to watch the game, I won't stop you, but the opportunity to meditate deeply is really rare. If you miss this time, you may never be in that state again. Dai Yun smiled and answered seriously, but this is the second time I have entered deep meditation recently, isn't it? Wang Yan also laughed. Yes, you are all the most talented students I have ever seen. After that, the two did not say anything more. Wang Yan went to call all the students together, and Dai Yun's waited in front of the meeting room, greeting the students who were called out one by one. After seeing Dayuns who had not been seen for several days, the others were a little surprised, especially after feeling the ethereal temperament emanating from him now. Their eyes also inadvertently revealed a little envy. Deep meditation, such an opportunity is rare, and Dayuns directly entered it twice, and even meditated deeply for 9 days this time. But now all these are still secondary. The finals with the Sun and Moon Royal Soul Instructor Academy are coming up soon. They have come all the way here and must successfully win back the championship. In the previous few games, they fought with Dowling Royal Academy, Xiangshan Academy, and Xingluo Royal Academy, and only suffered a little loss in the battle with Xingluo Royal Academy. But that is also the reason why their average cultivation is lower than that of their opponents. If the Shrek team is in a state of undefeated, let alone Xingluo Royal Academy, even the Sun and Moon Royal Soul Instructor Academy will not be a problem. The 3 regular players, plus the 7 reserve players, as well as Dayuns and the team leader Wang Yan, a total of 12 people. After the gathering, Wang Yan led everyone to Xingluo Square. The audience seats were still full. The Shrek team and the Sun and Moon Royal Soul Instructor Academy team walked into Xingluo Square almost at the same time, feeling the cheers from the people of the Xingluo Empire. After the renovation of the rest area, only 2 seats were left for Shrek Academy and Sun and Moon Royal Soul Instructor Academy. After entering, both sides walked to their respective areas and sat down, waiting for the opening of the finals. The finals are divided into 3 games. The 2 teams will compete in team competition, individual elimination competition and 2-2-3 battle. The team that wins 2 games first will win and be the champion. Shrek Academy and Sun Moon Royal Soul Instructor Academy can be said to be mortal enemies. As soon as they meet, there will be war. All the students on both sides have strong fighting spirit. As the finals of the Advanced Soul Master Academy in the whole continent, they still have to show their strength. The Emperor of Xingluo specially transferred the Duke of White Tiger from the border to watch the game, and the opening speech of the finals was also completed by Duke of White Tiger Tang Hao. Duke of White Tiger is worthy of being the great marshal who suppresses the border. As soon as he opened his mouth, the noisy Xingluo Square became quiet. However, he did not say much, but simply encouraged the students of both sides, and then sat back in his seat next to the Emperor of Xingluo. After that, a middle-aged man that Dayuns had never seen walked onto the competition venue, but from the behavior of the other party stepping onto the venue now, it is not difficult to guess the identity of this middle-aged man. He is undoubtedly the referee of this game, and according to the original work, the referee in the later stage of the game is the titled Douluo, whose martial soul is the Star of Heaven. Naturally, the identity of this middle-aged man is needless to say. After the opening speech of the White Tiger Duke, the Emperor of Xingluo also made a few impromptu remarks. Dayuns didn't want to listen to the official words of these 2 people in power. He had to solve the problem of his consciousness first. Since there are only 2 colleges left in the rest area, naturally, the rest area of each college has been expanded. The students on Shrek's side are basically sitting in the front rows, and only Dayuns is shrinking at the back. But the next moment, Dayuns, who was still immersed in his own consciousness, suddenly felt that there seemed to be one more person sitting next to him, and then a strong smell of alcohol entered his nose. Dayuns turned his head and saw Zhuanlao, who was gnawing on a chicken leg. Zhuanlao also looked at him with a smile and said, "You haven't come out of deep meditation yet? Let me see, either immerse yourself in it again and continue deep meditation, or break the shackles that restrict you in your consciousness and come out of it completely. You can't maintain this state for a long time, thanks to the friends who voted for this book. See you tomorrow." In the 3 games, which one do you think Dayuns will play in, the team battle, the individual elimination match, or the second 2-3, doge? Chapter 521, War Begins. Break the shackles? Dayuns listened to Zhuanlao's words and thought of the bright spot on the darkness. Zhuanlao only gave him a few pointers, and then his attention was focused on the referee on the field, Xiansha Douluo Wang Jingsu. Everyone was a title Douluo. Although Xiansha Douluo was not as good as Zhuanlao in terms of cultivation, he still noticed Zhuanlao's gaze at the first time. However, when he saw Zhuanlao's figure, his body trembled. Although his face did not show it, anyone could see the fear in his eyes. Xiansha Douluo's appearance also attracted the attention of many people. Naturally, they also followed his gaze and discovered Zhuanlao's existence, including the Shrek students. Seeing that the students had discovered him, Zhuanlao did not care, but just said to Wang Yan, "You arrange your own, I am just here to support you, Wang Yan nodded and began to arrange the players for the first team game. The weather today is not very good. The sky is gray and it seems that it may rain at any time. But even so, the tense atmosphere between the two academies still infected the whole audience, making the atmosphere gradually heated up. With the loud shouts of Xianxia Douluo, the students of both sides came on stage. On the Shrek Academy side, led by Ma Xiaotao, Dai Yuheng, Ling Luchen, Bibai, Su Sanchi, Jiang Nanan, and Kei Tao followed closely behind her, walked onto the competition stage one by one, and stood in front of Xianxia Douluo. At the same time, the 7 members of the Sun and Moon team also arrived in front of the Shrek people, looking at each other with burning eyes. Xianxia Douluo looked at the members of both sides, and then announced, "Both sides are ready." The referee gave the order, and the players of both sides began to retreat, and in the process of retreating, they arranged their own formations. The game begins. As Xianxia Douluo disappeared from the competition stage, the students of both sides also moved at the same time. Although they were opponents, their formations at this time were exactly the same. The defensive soul masters of both sides rushed to the front of the team, and the rest of the people followed behind them. When the two sides got closer, these proud sons of their respective academies launched attacks on their opponents at the same time. The conflict broke out with the soul guides of both sides. On the side of the Sun and Moon team, countless soul guide cannon lights rushed towards the Shrek team, and the Shrek team only had Kei Tao as a soul guide. Naturally, from the scene alone, Shrek seemed to be much inferior to the Sun and Moon team. However, the real elite of Shrek at present is not the soul guide, but the top soul masters. In addition to the soul guide rays fired from the large and small soul guide cannons on Kei Tao, the soul skills of the others were not saved, and they all flew towards the Sun and Moon team on the opposite side. Either they blocked the attack of the Sun and Moon team's soul guide, or they attacked the opponent's back row. Of course, the first round of offensives by both sides looked very bluffing, but they were just tests. When both sides were about to rush to the midfield line, a new round of confrontation began. Ma Xiaotao took the brunt of the attack, using several soul skills to strengthen herself, and rushed out at a speed that was unimaginable for the Sun and Moon team, as if she wanted to go directly behind the enemy. And with her cultivation level of 68, she was indeed qualified. Seeing Ma Xiaotao rushing out, the people of the Sun and Moon team naturally would not ignore her. The soul guide named Lin Zai stood up and greeted Ma Xiaotao. Seeing someone blocking the way, Ma Xiaotao was also very impolite to throw her attack soul skills at Lin Zai, but Lin Zai triggered 2 invincible shields at this time, one to defend himself, and the other to trap Ma Xiaotao and her burst of soul skills. After the invincible shield was triggered, it had a defense power of an 8-rank soul Douluo level, protecting himself and stopping Ma Xiaotao, and buying time for others without any problem. At the same time that Ma Xiaotao was stopped, Ma Rulong, the captain of the Sun and Moon team, was also controlling a 10,000-year soul beast through a soul guide to cooperate in combat, which was equivalent to the Sun and Moon team having one more soul emperor than the Shrek team. However, Xiao Hongchen was also replaced by Su Sanchi with Zuanming to the center of the Shrek team, and had to deal with the joint attack of others. However, Xiao Hongchen not only had an invincible shield, but also several soul shields with strong defense, which could resist the first wave of attacks from the Shrek people and buy time for counterattack. The battle between the two sides was quite chaotic, but the general trend was still in accordance with the original plot. Off stage, although Dai Yun's was still fighting against the other half of his consciousness that was in deep meditation, his attention to the event did not decrease at all. Relying on the special nature of his martial soul, Xiao Hongchen launched a soul array attack fired by 108 soul cannons at Dai Yuheng, but was blocked by Jiang Nanan with the 4th soul skill, the invincible golden body, and was directly counterattacked by Jiang Nanan. While losing resistance, he had to face the 6th soul skill from Dai Yuheng. After Jiang Nanan resisted the attack for Dai Yuheng, she also fell into coma due to exhaustion. And her coma also caused Su Sanchi, who was deep behind the enemy, to once again affect the Zuanwu power in his body. All the changes started from this moment. The 3-second validity of the invincible shield passed, Lin Zai was directly vaporized by Ma Xiaotao's Phoenix Flame, Xiao Hongchen escaped using the 5th soul skill of Golden Love and returned to the rear of the Sun and Moon team. Dai Yun's looked nervous, staring at the battle on the stage. Not only him, but also Xuan Lao beside him didn't care about gnawing chicken legs at this time, and watched the game closely with the same action as him. According to Wang Yan's tactics, Shrek focused on the individual elimination match and the 223 tactics later. At this time, Su Sanchi's Zuanwu power awakened, and Ma Xiaotao should have sent Su Sanchi off the stage to participate in the individual elimination match later. The unexpected change happened at this unexpected moment. Just when the effect of the invincible shield was about to end, Lin Zai used some soul guide and flashed out of the invincible shield that enveloped himself and Ma Xiaotao, and came to the safe area behind the Sun and Moon team. At this time, the invincible shield ended, and the phoenix flame imprisoned by Ma Xiaotao surged out. Feeling the terrifying heat, the members of the Sun and Moon team who were close to it immediately retreated. At the same time, the Zuanwu power in Su Sanchi's body was also awakened at this time. Without saying a word, he strengthened himself with the third soul skill Zuanming power, and slapped the ground with the first soul skill Zuanming Zhen, delaying several members of the Sun and Moon team nearby. It was also at this time that Xiao Hongqian escaped from the hands of the Shrek people and returned to the back of the Sun and Moon team. Except that Lin Zai was not dead and Su Sanchi was not sent off the competition stage by Ma Xiaotao, everything else was the same as the original. But just this small difference made Dai Yuns, who had been paying attention to the field, feel horrified. But before he had time to think carefully, his consciousness entered the dark space again and faced the faint light. Chapter 522 Another Draw. Just when Dai Yuns' consciousness entered the dark space, the battle situation changed again. Perhaps they felt the threat from Ma Xiaotao. The members of the Sun and Moon team suddenly retreated at this time. Marulong drove the 10,000-year-old ape soul beast towards Ma Xiaotao, trying to use the power of the soul beast to hold her back. Seeing this, Ma Xiaotao directly compressed her 3 soul skills and released a black fire phoenix, colliding with the 10,000-year-old soul beast. Before the 10,000-year-old soul beast had time to squeak, it disappeared in the exploding black fire phoenix. The black fire phoenix, which vaporized a 10,000-year-old soul beast with super high temperature, had not yet burned out, and the terrifying black flames continued to rush towards the Sun and Moon team. Seeing this, the Sun and Moon team did not dare to delay and immediately launched all their attacks on the black fire phoenix. Countless soul power beams shot towards the black fire phoenix, trying to detonate it while the black fire phoenix was still approaching. The people of Shrek naturally saw the idea of the Sun and Moon team, and they also released their long-range attacks in tacit understanding, not only to cater to the black fire phoenix, but also to stop the Sun and Moon team. The strongest soul attacks of both sides collided and gathered in the center of the competition stage. Under the influence of the energy of both sides, the body of the black fire phoenix gradually increased in size, and finally turned directly into an energy light ball containing a destructive aura. Su Sanchi, who was in the center of the Sun and Moon team, also released a mysterious nether shock again at this time, delaying all the members of the Sun and Moon team for 1 second, preventing them from triggering their own defensive soul guides. At this time, the light ball in the center of the venue, which gathered the strongest attack energy of both sides, suddenly exploded. The huge impact force quickly spread throughout the venue, pushing all the players on both sides on the competition stage out, followed by an extremely powerful explosion, which blew a deep pit in the competition stage. The 7 people of the Sun and Moon team and the 6 people of the Shrek team were all blown off the competition stage by the shock wave of the explosion, some unconscious and some injured. Only Jiang Nanan, who had fainted early and was sent off the stage by the referee, escaped the disaster and was not affected by the terrifying shock wave. The whole audience was in an uproar. This was the first time they had seen such a scene. Die together. Xianxia Douluo used all his means to extinguish the aftermath of the explosion that was still raging on the competition field, and the audience finally saw the big pit caused by the explosion. Then, the team leaders of both academies rushed over quickly to check the injuries of their students. The organizing committee of the competition also quickly approached, checking the conditions of the players on both sides and evaluating the results of this game. The Earth Attribute Soul Master came on stage to repair the severely damaged competition field so that the individual elimination match and the 2-2-3 tactics could proceed. The official healing attribute Soul Master of the Xingluo Empire treated the seriously injured students on both sides. On the Sun and Moon team, 2 members fell into deep coma in the explosion. They were Lin Zai and Chen Fei who died in the original book. Xiao Hongqian was seriously injured, but the injury was mainly caused by Dai Yuheng's White Tiger destruction kill. When the explosion occurred, his sister Meng Hongjin protected him, so his injury did not become more serious. The remaining 5 team members only consumed a lot of soul power and suffered minor injuries that did not affect their combat effectiveness. Turning to Shrek Academy, Su Sanchi's Zuan power bonus disappeared, and he himself fell into deep coma. Mazaya Ateo consumed a lot of soul power, but was not injured. Apart from them, everyone else was fine, just a little dizzy from the explosion, and they would recover soon. Zheng Nanan, who was sent off the court by the referee in advance, had exhausted his soul power. Although he had woken up at this time, he was obviously unable to continue fighting. From this point of view, although the process of the game is not quite the same as the original, the final result is the same. Dai Yuns does not know this for the time being. Everything before happened in just a few seconds, and his consciousness was still in the dark space, thinking about how to break the shackles. When he saw the scene around him again, the people who had just participated in the team competition had returned to the rest area, trying to recover their physical strength and soul power. At the same time, the evaluation results of the competition organizing committee came out, announced by the referee Xianxia Douluo. When Dai Yuns heard what Xianxia Douluo said next, his face turned pale. According to the evaluation of the competition organizing committee, the final result of the team competition between Shrek Academy and Sun Moon Royal Soul Instructor Academy in the finals of the All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul competition is a tie, another tie. A tie that is rare in hundreds of years. In this All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul competition, it actually appeared twice in a row, and both appeared in the game between the first academy of the continent. The whole audience was in an uproar, and a heated discussion broke out. But no one insulted the two academies, and they were all talking loudly about how exciting the game just now was. The atmosphere in Xingluo Square was warm, but Dai Yuns felt very cold. It was another unexpected situation. An accident may not be a big deal. But if many accidents happen one after another, the cumulative impact may be the announcement of the timeline deviating from the previous one. Dai Yun seemed to sense the faint death intention surrounding him again. It seemed that if there was any more accident, the death intention would directly take his life. But surprisingly, this time, he was not as scared as last time. Dai Yuns just silently felt the death intention and looked at the faint light that appeared from time to time in front of the other half of his consciousness. Wang Yan has already started to arrange the players who will play later. After the team battle, both sides will have a chance to redetermine the roster. Due to the many accidents that happened in the team competition just now, Wang Yan's plan has been completely disrupted. Su Sanchi has fallen into coma and obviously can no longer participate in the individual elimination match. In this way, only Mazaya Ateo, Dai Yuhen, Ling Luochen, Bibai, He Tao, Ho Yuheo, Wang Dong, and Xiao Xiao are left on Shrek's side. But among the 8 of them, Xiao Xiao's spirit's broken wound has not healed yet, and she is only a great spirit master, so Wang Yan will definitely not arrange her to participate in the battle. Even in his plan, Bibai, Mazaya Ateo and Dai Yaoheng will be the ones to clear the field in the individual elimination round. Ho Yuheo and Wang Dong are just extras, and they are the main forces participating in the 2-2-3 tactics later. As for He Tao, he is only a 4th-level spirit master, and the regular players of the Sun and Moon team are at least 5th-level spirit masters. Compared with the opponent, they have no advantage at all, so Wang Yan will not send him to the field. Then on the Shrek side, there are only 6 people who can play: Mazaya Ateo, Dai Yaohen, Ling Luochen, Bibai, Ho Yuheo and Wang Dong. Insert a small drama. Tang Liu, hey, it's time to play the left and right games again. I think I have put a lot of effort into maintaining Shrek's undefeated myth. Why doesn't Shrek give me an award? Dai Yuns, Tang Liu, I saved Lin Zai and Chen Fei who were doomed to die. Shouldn't the Sun Moon Empire give me an award? What is this called? This is called fundamentally easing the conflict between the 2 colleges, avoiding the possibility of the 2 colleges becoming enemies, and then easing the conflict between the 3 countries of the original continent and the Sun Moon Empire, promoting the stability and happiness of people's lives, and allowing the economies of all countries to develop steadily. Dai Yuns? Are you okay? Chapter 523 Grab the light and become the light. If it doesn't work, we can only let K Tao take over. Yuan Hao and Wang Dong will cooperate to win the last 3-on-3 match of the 223 battle method. Wang Yan gritted his teeth and said, but in this case, Zia Ateo, Yao Hang, can you guys withstand the pressure of the individual elimination match? Ma Zia Ateo said in a deep voice, don't worry, Teacher Wang, for the glory of Shrek, we must win back the victory no matter what. Wang Yan nodded, his eyes flashing with determination. He began to arrange the troops, then Bibai, Ling Lujin, Dai Hen, Ma Zia Ateo, He Tao, Ho Yu Hao, Wang Dong. The 7 of you will participate in the battle, and participate in the individual elimination match later in this order. Tell me, can you do it? We can, the 7 people said in unison. Wang Yan nodded heavily, okay. I believe in you, kids. After exchanging glances with his 7 determined students, Wang Yan was about to report the list of Shrek Academy's participants. Wait a minute, the light in front of me is like a lamp, illuminating the darkness at night, driving away the fear and unknown where the light reaches. Perhaps we have all had the same experience, fearing that we are alone in the room at night. But when the light comes on, the warmth of home lingers in my heart, and looking at the light, I feel peace and tranquility. That kind of light is what moths in the wild desire all their lives. Even if you may burn yourself or turn yourself into ashes when you approach it or touch it, do you still want to hold on to that light? Dai Yuns felt that his state was becoming more and more wonderful. Most of his consciousness was immersed in that dark space, accompanied by that little bit of weak light. But he could clearly hear the communication of the people around him, and feel the emotions and will of the people around him. He heard the anxiety in Wang Yan's tone and the unyielding voices of the students. They gathered together, and even the smallest flames rose into a raging fire, as if there were no difficulties that could stop them. Time has undoubtedly changed a lot, and perhaps it is still within the critical point of deviation. But it has changed. Su Sanchi finally failed to participate in the individual elimination match. Bibai became the first one, and He Tao, who currently has no advantage, replaced Su Sanchi. The situation is not good, and it is too different from what he knows, so can Shrek still win? Dai Yuns didn't know, but at the moment when this thought arose, many pictures seemed to emerge vaguely in the dark space. There was a picture of Bibai winning 2 games, but Meng Hongjin, who was behind, defeated 3 of them, allowing the Sun and Moon team to win completely. There was a picture of Meng Hongjin defeating 3 of them at the beginning, allowing the Sun and Moon team to win. There was also a picture of the 2 sides constantly deadlocked, and in the end the Sun and Moon team still won by a narrow margin. And these pictures, without exception, eventually turned into part of the darkness around them. Major deviation. Looking at the future that kept flashing by, Dai Yuns was dazed and couldn't help but have an idea. What if I participate in the battle? The pictures around him changed with the emergence of this thought. Dai Yuns saw himself appear in the picture. Shrek won. But the picture went dark. The second picture followed. Shrek won again. It went dark again soon after. The third and fourth pictures, countless possibilities, countless futures. Shrek won. But they also made time go to the unknown. Dai Yuns seemed not to see the darkness at the end of the picture. He kept letting the power of time explore the future, trying to find a feasible future. Even if he fell into darkness again and again, even if he ended up with the same ending every time, Dai Yuns did not stop, as if he was possessed. Even the pictures flickered faster and faster. And gradually, a voice came from far away, and it became clearer as Dai Yuns explored more and more times. It was not real at first, but when he heard it clearly, all the voices turned into a simple sentence. You will die? The voice was just plain at first, as if it was just stating a fact. But after Dai Yuns' crazy behavior of peeping into the future, the voice gradually became sharp and distorted. He kept muttering in Dai Yuns' ear, and the speed was getting faster and faster. It was obviously just one person's voice, but it became as if there were thousands of people shouting around Dai Yuns, you will die. The wave-like voice brought a terrifying and fatal pressure, trying to tear Dai Yuns apart in the darkness. But Dai Yuns stood in the faint light and seemed to be unaware of it. I don't know since when, he no longer looked at the pictures of the inevitable death around him, and only the light within reach was in his eyes. The roar in his ear became more impatient, as if it had sensed Dai Yuns' intentions, and tried harder to intimidate him and stop him. Dai Yuns just looked at the bright spot, even though his consciousness was about to be torn apart by those overlapping voices, even though he already felt a strong sense of death pressing on him. He no longer thought about the timeline or the game. He just seemed to see something in that light, and he couldn't turn his eyes away after seeing it. He saw himself throwing out the level 5 soul shield. He saw himself standing up for Yu Hao in the class. He saw himself making a deal with the Duchess for Yuner and Yu Hao, and he saw many more things from a long time ago. Those things were all in the faint light in front of him, illuminating his figure, which was incompatible with the darkness around him. And do you want to abandon it and embrace the darkness completely? Do you want to be that kind of person? Is that really your intention? Why can't you really open your eyes and see what you want? Why don't you want to be yourself? Then be brave. Ling Luchen, Dai Yuhang, Ma Zia Ateo, He Ke Tao, Ho Yu Hao, and Wang Dong. The 7 of you will participate in the individual elimination match in this order. Tell me, can you do it? We can, okay. I believe in you, kids. I just hope they can be fine. Just like what I did before. I hope Yuner will suffer less hardships in life. I hope Yu Hao can grow up sunny and happy. I hope that all those who were originally destined to tragedy can find a ray of light in the tears and blood. But since when did all my hopes turn into cowardly retreats? Wait a minute, if I don't want to sink into this, then let this cry at this moment announce a new beginning for me. From this moment on, there will be no more hesitation, no more retreat. The anxious whispers around me turned into a piercing scream that struck the soul, but when he grasped the glimmer, it stopped abruptly and disappeared. Even if you get close to it and touch it, you will be burned and turned into ashes. I will also hold the light tightly. When my eyes opened, the darkness was gone. Instead, it was replaced by a soft and sparkling sea. Teacher Wang, everyone looked at Dai Yuns, who stood up. Dai Yuns also looked at them, his eyes calm. I can participate. 3 chapters posted in a row, but the competition is not finished. Doge, thank you friends who voted for recommendations and monthly tickets. Dai Yuns will be on the stage tomorrow. See you there. Today, the trash author Doge posted a few minutes late because of writing words. Chapter 524 Join the War. Wang Yan looked at Dai Yuns. What did you say? You can participate in the competition. Wang Yan took 2 steps, as if he wanted to get as close to Dai Yuns as possible, but he had to give up because of the seat. However, it was still possible to see that he was not calm. Dai Yuns nodded. Yes, I can participate in the competition. After getting Dai Yuns' affirmative answer again, the stone that Wang Yan had been hanging in his heart finally fell. He was so excited that he kept pacing left and right, muttering in his mouth, great, great. After being excited alone for a while, Wang Yan looked at Dai Yuns with burning eyes and asked, Yuns, if you face those people from the Sun and Moon team alone, how confident are you? Except Ma Rulong and Meng Hongjin, everyone else is not a problem, Dai Yuns answered without any hesitation, but it seemed to give everyone present a heavy blow. So confident? Although the cultivation of soul masters is forcibly improved through various drugs and natural treasures, the regular players of the Sun and Moon team are at least soul kings after all, and they are at least level 5 soul masters. Moreover, soul masters have an advantage over soul masters below the 7th ring. Dai Yuns has only just obtained the 4th soul ring. How dare he brag? Dai Yuns knew that they would doubt his strength. After all, it was such a critical moment. But he just threw out a fact that no one could refute. How do you think Chen Zifen compares to those level 5 soul masters of the Sun and Moon team? At this time, everyone realized that as early as half a month ago, Dai Yuns single-killed Chen Zifen, a soul king who was also from the inner courtyard, under the siege of many people, and had already proved his strength to them. In their eyes, as soul kings, the soul king of Shrek Academy is naturally more powerful. The others looked at Dai Yuns without any strangeness. Wang Yan did not doubt Dai Yuns' strength. He was still in an excited state. Then Dai Yuns, you will be the first to go on the field. No, 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 the Sun Moon team will definitely let Meng Hongjin go on the field first. We have no idea about Meng Hongjin's ability. But now Dai Yuns has also become our special card. I have decided that the order of your appearance later will be Bibi first, followed by Ling Luchen, Dai Yuhang, Dai Yuns, Ma Zia Ateo, Ho Yu Hao and Wang Dong. Is there any problem? Although Wang Yan was very excited now, he still made a very calm judgment and did not let Dai Yuns go on the field first. Dai Yuns' failure to participate in the battle before has become Shrek's biggest advantage now, because no one knows Dai Yuns, just like they don't know Meng Hongjin. Maybe he can become the key to defeating the enemy. No, it is a special soldier who will definitely win. It's not that Wang Yan has confidence in Dai Yun's, but that he has confidence in the old people of the Sea God Pavilion. After all, Dai Yun's is the 8th person candidate decided by the Sea God Pavilion. No problem, the 7 people whose names were called answered in unison. Wang Yan took several deep breaths in a row, and then he suppressed his restless emotions. Okay, then I will report our list of participants. Come on, kids, the 7 people nodded at the same time. Wang Yan left quickly, and soon everyone heard the loud voice of Xianxia Douluo coming from the competition stage. The final of the All-Continent Advanced Soul Master Academy Fighting Soul Competition, Shrek Academy vs Sun Moon Royal Soul Instructor Academy, the first match of the second round of individual eliminations, Shrek Team Bibai vs Sun Moon Team Mika. Both parties please enter. Hearing this result, Dai Yun's narrowed his eyes. The first person to play in the individual elimination match changed from Su Sanchi to Bibai, but the opponent also changed from Li Yan, who was supposed to play first, to Mika, who happened to be the opponent of the match against Bibai in the original book. Dai Yun's didn't believe it was a coincidence, maybe it was really a destined arrangement. When he chose to catch the beam of light, broke the shackles, and completely broke away from deep meditation, he not only completely obtained the benefits of deep meditation, the spiritual sea was materialized, but also had a deeper control over time. Those sudden premonitions may actually be the future that time wants to show him. Immediately, Dai Yun said to Bibai, who was about to go on stage, "Be careful of Meng Hongjin, the next one to go on stage may be her. Her martial soul is the red-eyed ice toad, which can use very strong poisons. I know that the Tang sect is also good at using poison. Since you are the eldest brother of the Tang sect, you should have some ways to deal with it." Since he has decided to help, Dai Yun's no longer cares whether the timeline will deviate irreversibly. He just wants Shrek to win the championship now, so he naturally reveals the information that is beneficial to them without reservation. Bibai was stunned. He didn't expect that Dai Yun's, who had always been difficult to get close to, would talk to him at this time. But he also remembered what Dai Yun said, nodded, and said that he understood it, and then walked onto the competition stage. Wang Yan had also returned a long time ago. After hearing what Dai Yun had just said, he said with a mixture of surprise and worry, "Red-eyed ice toad? Meng Hongjin's martial soul is one of those very rare and highly poisonous soul beasts." Dai Yun nodded. "Among us now, except for Hou Yuhao's ultimate ice, no one can really withstand her ice toad poison. If they really fight, maybe only senior sister Mazaya Ateo and senior brother Dai Yuheng can resist for a while, but they can only fight quickly and decisively. If it drags on, Meng Hongjin will definitely win." And he turned his head and looked at Bibai, who was already standing on the competition stage. "Even though I have reminded senior brother Bibai, I still don't think he will win when he fights Meng Hongjin. He may lose in one encounter, although the Tang sect is good at using poison. The poison chapter in the Zuanshan treasure record left by Tang San is still hidden in the yin-yang eye of ice and fire, and has not been passed down, so Dai Yun doesn't think Bibai can last long under the highly poisonous ice toad of Meng Hongjin." Everyone stopped talking and just focused on watching the game. Although they didn't know whether what Dai Yun said was true or false, they were all members of Shrek and were now fighting for the glory of Shrek, so they would not doubt Dai Yun's. Moreover, the order of the competition had been decided and could not be changed. Even if Meng Hongjin was difficult to deal with, they could only take it one step at a time. On the field, the game had already begun. Micah was a melee level 5 soul guide with soul guide armor. His attacks were not fast, but they were very powerful. The time-blasting soul guide cannon he used made Bibai dare not face it head-on, and he could only rely on the unique skills of the Tang sect to deal with it. Among the Shrek people, there were 2 people whose eyes were not on the competition stage at this time. Chapter 525, Red-Eyed Ice Toad. The first one was Hou Yuhao. Although he was sitting in the front row, he was secretly looking back at Dai Yun's. He had already received confirmation from Bingdi about what Dai Yun had said before, which confirmed that what Dai Yun said was true. However, he was also very curious about where Dai Yun knew all this. After all, Meng Hongjin had never released his martial spirit in a competition before. And why did Dai Yun suddenly want to participate in the competition? Although Hou Yuhao did not have the ability to read minds, he could still feel that Dai Yun seemed to have an inexplicable temperament of looking death as home, which made him feel a little uneasy. The other one was Zhuanlao. He did not watch the game either, and his eyes fell on Dai Yun's. However, his eyes were full of relief, Especially when Dayun's was talking to others just now, that kind of temperament of being in control was indeed worthy of being the 8th person appointed by Mu Lao. Dayun's did not notice the gazes of the old and the young. On the surface, he was watching the game, but in fact, he was getting familiar with his mental power as soon as possible after it was greatly strengthened. The 9 days of deep meditation brought him the sparkling spiritual sea in his mind. Looking inward, the spiritual sea was about the size of a lake, and the water inside was all condensed spiritual power. After the spiritual sea was materialized, all the soul skills of his spirit martial soul were improved, and his control over spiritual power was also improved a lot. If the spiritual detection was released, it was conservatively estimated that it could detect a range of about 160 meters in diameter around the body, which could be said to be a great improvement. But in fact, what surprised Dayun's was not the improvement of the spiritual sea, but the golden sun suspended above the spiritual sea. What is that? Dayun's consciousness approached the sun, wanting to find out its true face. However, just when his consciousness was about to touch the sun on the spiritual sea, the shouting from the outside world woke him up. Dayun's looked at the competition stage and found that Bibai had won the game. His opponent, Micah, was lying on the ground at this time, with a black face, obviously a sign of poisoning. After a brief recollection, Dayun's knew what happened to Micah. It must be that Bibai used the soul-chasing and life-taking gallbladder according to the original book. It was strange to think about it. The soul god shield that could defend against powerful attacks could not defend against the powerful hidden weapons of the Tang sect, just because those powerful hidden weapons had the effect of breaking the protective aura. But shouldn't the soul god shield be a completely airtight energy shield? Why could it be broken by the hidden weapon? Shaking his head, Dayun suppressed those insignificant thoughts in his heart and returned his attention to the competition stage. After Douluo sent the poisoned and unconscious Mika off the competition stage, he asked the second member of the Sun and Moon team to go on stage to compete. Under the gaze of the Shrek people, the girl with long wine red hair on the Sun and Moon team stood up and slowly walked onto the competition stage. It was Meng Hongqian. The moment they saw her on the stage, the first reaction of the Shrek people was to look at Dayun's behind them. He really guessed it. Dayun's didn't react much, but just secretly said, as expected, Meng Hongqian also arrived earlier as Bibai appeared earlier, so was this a coincidence, or was it destined, or was it the self-correction ability of the timeline? Dayun's narrowed his eyes. They kept saying that the timeline deviated, but could the timeline really be changed so easily? For the first time, Dayun's had strong doubts about the young man's words. Moreover, didn't the young man say that he would come to kill him if the timeline deviated significantly? Why hasn't there been any movement for so long? Is it that he hasn't really played in the game yet? Or is it that helping Shrek to participate in the game is not actually a major deviation? Or is it that the final darkness in the pictures he saw does not actually represent a major deviation of the timeline? So he was lying to him. On the competition stage, Bibai narrowed his eyes and looked at the girl opposite him who was about the same age as him. Although the other party relied on drugs and secret methods to quickly improve her cultivation, it is also quite amazing that she can cultivate to the Soul King at this age, and even he himself is just over level 40. Moreover, Dayun said that the girl's martial soul was a poisonous red-eyed ice toad. Poisonous? Bibai felt heavy-hearted and thought that this match was really difficult to win. His own martial soul was the blue lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex, which had not yet fully awakened to the holy dragon of light. It was a top-level beast martial soul, but it had no good defense against poison. The only thing he was thankful for was that he practiced a Tang Sex Zuanshinguang, which was neutral and peaceful, could heal wounds, and had strong resistance to various toxins. But since this red-eyed ice toad was specifically proposed by Dayun's, Bibai had no idea that the Zuanshin function could not withstand Meng Hongqian's poison. If it really didn't work, he would fight poison with poison and reward Meng Hongqian with a mother and son soul-chasing and life-stealing courage. Whether he could hit it or not was another matter. As long as he could weaken Meng Hongqian's strength, it would be a profit. Here, Bibai was looking at Meng Hongqian, and Meng Hongqian was also looking at him. But perhaps because she was confident in her cultivation and martial soul, she didn't take Bibai too seriously. Soon, Douluo announced the start of the match, and both sides moved at the same time. Meng Hongqian released her martial spirit, and her skin suddenly turned white, and even her long wine red hair turned white. In sharp contrast to this paleness were her red eyes that seemed to be dripping with blood. As two yellow, two purple, and one black soul rings rose from her feet. A faint white mist gradually dissipated on the field, and under Meng Hongzhen's control, it swept towards Bibi. Bibi did not dare to neglect it. At the moment the match started, she stayed as far away from Meng Hongzhen as possible, and at the same time held her breath and concentrated her mind, using soul power to seal her mouth and nose to cut off the possibility of toxins entering the body through the respiratory tract. Seeing Bibi's actions, Meng Hongzhen also knew what he wanted to do. With a disdainful curl of his mouth, he rushed towards Bibi slowly. After all, the competition stage was so small that her ice-toad poison mist would always spread throughout the field. If she just ran away, Bibi would not be able to escape for long. Strictly speaking, Meng Hongzhen only guessed half right. Bibi still remembered what Yun said before. Except for Hou Yuhao's ultimate ice, none of them could resist the poison of the red-eyed ice-toad. If they wanted to defeat Meng Hongzhen, they could only take the path of a quick battle. Bibi's ideal was naturally the same. First, quickly distance herself from Meng Hongzhen, and then use long-range attacks to deal with her. Chapter 520, The Author Loves You Too Doge. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.